Folks, if you could take your seats, we'll get started. Welcome to the West Orange Board of Education Public Board Meeting for May 6th, 2019, budget hearing here at Liberty Middle School. Mr. Calavano.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. May I have a motion for consideration of the closed and public meeting minutes of April 3rd, 8th, 10th, and 24th?
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Mr. Calavano.
Mrs. Merklinger,
Yes.
Mr. Robertson,
Yes.
Mrs. Trigg-Scales,
Yes.
Vice President Mordecai,
Yes to all dates except for April 24th. I abstain for that.
and President Alper.
Yes. Okay. Up next, student liaison report.
We don't really have much, but April 22nd, the traffic patterns were established and fixed. So I think that I know Ms. Trigg-Scales wanted an update. So they've actually improved traffic patterns a lot. I know in PVW driveway there used to be a lot of traffic, and now it's much less because of police regulation. We're currently in the process of looking into the board liaisons for next year. So I know this week is Teacher Appreciation Week, so we just want to thank all the teachers in the district, and including Ms. Connors, for helping us and advising us. Yeah, that's it.
Great. Superintendent report.
Good evening. I'm going to start with our Teacher Appreciation Week, which is this week. We just want to thank all of our teachers for their commitment, their dedication. Certainly, they're changing lives of students one at a time. We definitely only have this on a calendar for 1 week, but we understand that their commitment is every single day. And that impact is felt from generation to generation, right? So when we remember our teachers, we're remembering the impact they had on us, not their strategies or their lesson plans, but it's the impact that they themselves had on us. So thank you to all of our teachers for everything you do for our students. Also for our nurses, today is Appreciation for Nurses Day, and so they too really care for our students, especially when they're feeling under the weather, and our staff, and they make sure that they're safe and that they're cared for. So thank you to our nurses. This week, or May 12th through May 18th, is also Allergy Awareness Week. We have activities and resources that will be facilitated in our buildings for the week. They include a Fact a Day during morning announcements, Dress in Teal Day on Friday, May 17th, Food Allergies video and Food Allergy Awareness presentation, and an informational document has been shared with our staff, with our administrators to share with our staff. We have the Red Shoelaces organization that will be presenting on food allergies at Kelly Elementary School as well on Wednesday, May 15th. With regard to our Seal of Biliteracy, a great accomplishment for our students who are bilingual and trilingual and can demonstrate that on state assessments in more than one language. They get a seal on their diploma that says that they have met all of the requirements, not only in English, but in another language. This year we have the honor of congratulating 28 students who are able to demonstrate biliteracy on state assessments in 2 languages, and one who can do so in 3. And so that is a congratulations to Nunzio Castaldo, who was able to demonstrate proficiency in Spanish, English, and Italian. So congratulations to him and to the other 27 students. Sure. So he has to demonstrate, all of the 28 students had to demonstrate their English proficiency on state assessment, the NJSLA. They also had to demonstrate on state assessments for each language for which they were applying for the seal of biliteracy. And they've demonstrated that. And again, that will be a seal on their diploma so that when they go to college or for employment, that it can be visible that they are able to not just communicate in other languages, but that they could read, speak, and write fluently in both languages. All right. And in this case, 3. So again, congrats. With our security audit, we recently completed a security audit. Stonegate Consultant Group conducted that. That group is ready with a presentation, has shared their findings with the board. So as not to overcrowd this agenda, the presentation for the security update will be on May 20th, our next board meeting. And we look forward to hearing what those recommendations are. And the last part of the superintendent update is the HIB report, which I will pass out. Are there any questions? Okay, very good. So that closes our part of the superintendent report. I think if you're ready, President Alper, we can do the budget presentation. Okay, so good evening again. Tonight we are presenting our final budget presentation for the 2019-2020 school year. The original or the preliminary presentation was made on March 25th, 2019. We have made some revisions to that preliminary budget, which we will present this evening. And we will begin with our district priority areas. Our district priority areas continue to be ELA K through 5, Math 6 through 8, ESL K through 12, Health K through 5. Our safety and security recommendations, our facilities and capital projects, social emotional learning, restorative justice, and diversity initiatives, which are new state mandates. We've aligned the budget priorities to our board budget goals, and these are posted on our district website. And they continue to focus on safety, ELA, K through 8 math, ESL, co-curricular and athletic programs, and of course, minimizing the impact on the taxpayers.
So we have budget terms. So I tried to categorize this a little bit better than in the past. So when you're looking at the general fund, there's 3 parts of a budget: the general fund, special revenue fund, and debt service. So the general fund is your operating budget. The special revenue are grants and restricted grants that we receive from the state and the federal government, and they're used for a certain purpose. And debt service is to repay back the principal and interest of the bonds, or if we had lease purchase agreements in the past. And within the operating budget, there's a capital outlay fund. And that is where we would budget any equipment over $2,000 or any construction projects we may have. Capital reserve is a fund that we can use to reserve funds for capital projects. We currently are probably less than $5,000 in that fund. There's only two ways to fund the capital reserve account. One would be at budget time, as we are now, we can make a deposit into that fund. But again, that's part of our 2%. That'll be part of our 2% cap. Or any leftover funds at the end of the year, those funds can be sent into capital reserve. Fund balance, these are savings that come out of a budget annually and they're actually put into a reserve fund. These funds are used each year to offset the budget cuts. So you'll see in the budget presentation coming up that we use $2.2 million or 2.250 of fund balance as a revenue source. So we've been using $2.5 million. We're trying to wean ourselves off of that. So we reduced it by $250,000 this year. We are allowed to keep 2% of our budget in this fund. And we are presently under probably about 1.5% or even under 1.5%. We're at a point now where we have to, when we put our budget into the DOE software, we get a warning indicating that our surplus is low for the county office to actually verify it and to see if they'll approve our budget with a low fund balance. Bank cap, this is unused tax levy that we leave on the table each year, and you're allowed to use it the following 2 years. School tax levy, that's a tax bill that's collected for the municipality for school taxes. And our tax rate, that's the amount per dollar for $100 of assessed valuation. Our budget approval timeline, again, we had the preliminary on the 25th. 26th, it was submitted to the county office. April 5th, we received approval from the county office. And here we're this evening for May 6th for our public hearing. We are required through accountability regulations to seek savings through shared services. So these are the agencies we actually work with when we purchase items or services and goods for the school district. So if you look at the educational services, actually Ed Data Services, the purchasing group, that group is probably made up of 500 school districts throughout New Jersey. We all put our requests in, they go out to bid, and they get the best dollar because there's a bulk of school districts ordering the same type of materials. So by utilizing the Ed Services Commission, Ed Data Services, we actually saved in the current year about $290,000 by going through them. So you'll also see some of the other areas of services that we use with other agencies.
Each year we have mandated programs that are not funded by the state. So on this slide we've just included a list of what types of programs those are. Again, the state says we must implement. There is not budget that is afforded to a district in order to do so. Some of them include our PERS contribution, HIB, the SDA assessment, professional development, our teacher and principal evaluation, diversity training, social, emotional, restorative justice, and the new one is personal finance that we're required to implement.
So here we're showing tax levy comparison from the preliminary budget to the final budget this evening. As you will see, from the preliminary to the final, in the general fund tax levy, we reduced it by $442,185. Debt service, there was no reduction. It is what it is, so we have a mandate that we have to pay the principal interest. Total tax levy, you'll see, same number, $442,000. So the tax impact on the average home went from $151.82 to $138.28. Here we talk about the revenues of the budget. Again, 3 parts of the budget: the operating budget, special revenue, and debt service. So you'll see in Fund 10, local tax levy. You'll see state aid. And this also includes extraordinary aid. So each year, school districts will apply for additional funding for students that are classified who have certain expenses over a set threshold. And once we apply, we don't get the 100% back of our expenses. They look at the pot of money they have, and then they give us a proration of whatever's available. In addition to that, we have non-public transportation that we actually receive. So for the non-public students, we have an obligation to, A, provide transportation within $1,000 per student. If we can't provide that transportation within $1,000 per student, then we actually have to cut a check to the parents. So the state at one point, they were frozen at $710. They continued to increase this aid in lieu of amount. So now we'll get the difference from the $1,000 that we pay out to the $771. So that's an additional amount that's also included in this state aid figure. Budgeted fund balance, I spoke about this earlier. We had, the last couple of years, we were budgeting $2.5 million. We are now down to 2.250. And our tuition miscellaneous, it's the rentals, interest, and tuition that we receive for our rentals of the buildings, or tuition the students that come in from other other districts that they actually pay a tuition. Fund 20 is special revenue, again, restricted for a certain purpose. And then for Fund 40, we have the local tax levy, state aid, and then you'll see $2 for budgeted fund balance. And that's not a mistake, but what happens is on the expense side, we round up our payments, and we were left over with $2 last school year. So whatever's left over in that account, we have to appropriate the following year. Now we have the expenditure side. And like all school districts, you'll probably see exactly the same format, salaries and benefits being number one. We have special services here, and this includes transportation, but again, it doesn't include salaries or benefits. Instructional and support, operations, maintenance, security, transportation, again, in this number includes the non-public amount of $1,000 per student for transportation. Charter school, we have 9 West Orange students attending 7 schools. So we actually have a paid tuition for these students. Capital outlay, again, that's equipment or maintenance projects. And we also have an assessment for SDA, which is School Development Authority. Years ago, we were fortunate enough to get funding, 40% of eligible cost funding from the state. And now they're having a difficult time paying back their principal interest on the bonds they floated. So they're assessing penalties on all the districts that received the aid. So our amount is $115,000. And then special revenue. Again, with special revenue, what I failed to mention is that also includes money for non-public schools. So the non-publics are entitled to technology, textbooks, nursing. All those funds run through our budget. So that is part of our $3.2 million. Debt service. So then we have our total of $165, $576, $586.
And on that same slide, if you could back up for a second, we see that the 3 largest areas continue to be salaries, benefits, special services, followed by instructional support. And so then some of the drivers for instruction and support are our ELA K-5 program, our math program 6-8, our textbooks at the high school for math, and all of our professional development. So that's what's included there.
So last year, we were asked to develop a slide for what is our actual cost for special services. And again, we just updated this slide to reflect the current numbers. So here we have everything relating to special services. Purchase professional services, that includes related services, one-to-one aids, evals, and legal fees. Miscellaneous is the rental that we have for the Betty Madalena School. So that includes the rental, the snow removal, storage, utilities, and also some travel and dues and fees for staff members. And then we also showed the revenue side. For state aid, we received 2 parts of state aid. We received special ed and transportation aid for special education. So that's reflected in that $7 million, along with the extraordinary aid and the Medicaid reimbursement. So we're looking at $33.2 million.
Now, this doesn't include IDEA, correct, John?
Does
this
not
is just
include
the
IDEA.
operating
Right.
budget. Okay.
So I'm going to try with this slide because this is the calculation that the state uses to come up with our tax levy cap. Each district is, when the state figures their tax levy cap each year, we can only go up by 2%. So if you recall last year, the original tax levy, when we approved the budget, was $135,384,400. Then we received notice late in June, probably in July, that we were entitled to additional funding. So the board decided to reduce that tax levy by $3 million. So the actual tax levy for the current year we're in now is $132,380,400. What should have happened is the state should have used that number and increased it by 2%. What they did is they took our original tax levy number of 135, they increased that by 2%. So as you see the first line, when you go across, that's the 2%. But in reality, when you look at what our tax levy is currently, where we're going, it's actually a 3.98% increase. And again, we're within cap. We're not within it. We're within a 2% cap, but but it's not 2%. It's 3.98%.
And the difference from our preliminary budget was?
4.31. We were at 4.31. We're now at 3.98.
Very good.
So here's a chart showing where we are with cap, where we are with some adjustments. So school districts are entitled for health care costs for adjustments. And that's the maximum adjustment that would exceed 2% but not greater than 6.6%. So for us, you'll see that we have a health care adjustment of $778,332. Now, I talked earlier this morning, what was the change from the preliminary to the final? We cut the budget by $442,185. So now we are that amount under cap. And then we have bank cap that we have in the past where we didn't go to cap. We have that money available. So all this money is available for the board to use, but it directly hits the taxpayer. So it's not state funding, it's the ability to keep increasing our budget, but it's a direct hit on the taxpayer.
And we're not using any of these?
Correct. So within the three budgets, you only have two tax levy, one for the operating, one for debt service. So here are the amounts for a total tax levy of $143.4 million. And here we do the comparison. We saw that 3.98% earlier. Debt service went down a little bit. So the total tax levy, there's an increase of 3.81%. So when you look at calculating taxes, you're looking at a calendar year, but the district's on a school year basis, July to June. So what we're doing for 2019, you're taking half for 1 year and half for the other year. So this is the calculation to come up with the tax levy for 2019, the $140,785,540.
So then what is in the budget? On the next slide, we'll see our budget priorities, and we've categorized them in three large areas: safety, security, and facilities, our instructional program, and supporting our staff. To accomplish our instructional priorities, the budget will add and continue to support the following programs: curriculum and instructional materials, health education K-5. We're adding 2 health teachers. We're looking to integrate health at the elementary in our grades K-5. Our math program, grades 6-8. This is our 4th year now evaluating our math program. The teachers at the end of this year will make a recommendation on what that outcome will be for math 6-8. Our ELA instructional materials to support our balanced literacy program. ESL staffing and professional development. We are adding 2 ESL teachers to provide the required number of minutes for our elementary students to meet state compliance, and expand Summer Institute at the high school to include opportunities for accelerated coursework. We will also add and continue to support continued curriculum development across all content areas. Differentiation strategies will be added to our newly revised curriculum, Spanish materials for K-5 math and social studies, and a new state mandate of personal finance in grades 6 through 8. To accomplish our instructional priorities, the budget will add the following positions: 1 special education teacher in kindergarten. Again, the 2 ESL teachers, grades K through 5, 2 health and physical education teachers, grades K through 5, 1 academic support teacher in grade 6, 1 occupational speech therapist for the district, and 1 part-time technology technician for the district. We will also add the following safety and security. We have safety and security audit recommendations. We have the high school new traffic pattern. The staffing for that is 6 staff in the AM for the hour in order to ensure the safety of the students. And likewise, for Hazel and for Washington, our principals have requested for 1 hour in the AM or the PM, pedestrian safety is critical. We have walkers there and the cars there as parents are dropping off our students, and so then there will be security for 1 hour in the AM or the PM in order to ensure the pedestrian safety. With regard to our safety and security audit recommendations, again, that presentation will be coming at the end of this month. Stonegate has made various recommendations. In this budget, you will see $150,000 allocated to safety and security recommendations. However, there is a grant that is available, the School Violence and Prevention Grant, in conjunction with the West Orange Police Department. We're working together to complete that grant. That's due at the end of this month. And we will put in all of those recommendations, and we can receive between $225,000 to $300,000 to accomplish that. Yes, we're excited about that. So thank you to our township and to the West Orange Police Department and Chief Abbott and everybody else, Catherine Guerra, who's helping us to make sure that we have that grant written. To accomplish our instructional priorities, the budget will add and support the following professional learning opportunities. Reading and writing instruction in K-8, math 6-8, content area professional development K-12, academic intervention in grade 6, sheltered instruction K-12, diversity and cultural proficiency K-12, social emotional learning and restorative justice K-12, and crisis prevention intervention training K-12. We will also add HIB, INRS, 504, mental health and counseling training, Makerspace and Adobe, Creative Cloud, Career Ed and Library. For our Algebra Continuum and Math K-5, annual Amistad training in Social Studies, our Next Generation instruction in Science, and the Writing and Language instruction in ELA. So these are our professional learning goals in this budget. In the area of technology, we will add and continue to support our teachers and our students with the technology they need in their classrooms. 375 laptops for our teachers, 2,100 Chromebooks for students to continue to support our one-to-one initiative. At our high school computer lab, we are refurbishing the 3 business educational labs and the 1 computer graphics lab. In the area of transportation, in our budget, we see the lease of 2 buses and 2 vans. We see our geo-mapping and geo-fencing capabilities on all of the district and contracted buses, the Z-passes for instant identification of the students on the buses, and the Smart app for sending instant alerts and communications to parents regarding our bus status. And those are the things that we are adding to the budget to continue to support our programs. With regard to budget efficiencies, reductions and savings.
Okay, so here's a slide that shows what our health benefit broker has done. He went out to bid or asked for proposals from various health benefit providers. As you see here, Aetna is our current plan. They came in at a plus 9.8% increase. And AmeriHealth, Horizon, Oxford Schools Health Insurance Fund declined to quote. We just moved into Aetna this past July, so I think there's a reason why the other providers did not submit a quote. But this is an annual thing that happens, so each year they'll go back out and see if they can get better rates. They looked at the state health benefits program. Unfortunately, the health benefits program, their renewal rates actually comes out in January of each year. So the broker took the last 10 years average, and he compared to what we have rate-wise, and he sees a plus 10.3% for state health benefits. So A, if we were to go to the state health benefit program, it would cost the board more. B, The other issue we have is they cannot provide an equal or better plan than we have currently. And that's one of the items that we must do. If we're going to move to a different plan, it has to be equal to or better. So for next year, we'll be with Aetna.
Okay, so in our budget, we also do have reductions. These reductions include tuition-based programs based on our graduating students, related and extraordinary services based on changes in individual programming needs, 4.6 FTEs district-wide due to staffing efficiencies, 5.4 FTEs district-wide due to reductions in classroom enrollment and out-of-district professional development. It's important to know that of all of the reductions, there are only two, not only, but two of them would be staff that are going back into classrooms, and the rest are achieved through retirement and or those types of positions. The proposed budget includes the following additional reductions: transportation efficiencies. This was a single run versus a double or a triple run, and we talked about that in the preliminary budget. So currently in our transportation, we have single runs, which are more expensive than if we combined runs and had a bus stop in two different schools, and so we were able to find efficiencies there. Our 7 p.m. late buses at the high school, we're consolidating from 4 to 3 late bus runs. They will be at 3:45, 5:30, and at 6:45, and some equipment. Some budget and funding challenges. Our capital projects that are not included in the budget would be our univent replacements, our retaining wall at Washington, and our quality water recommendations, and this would be upwards of $12.5 million. So we do not see this reflected in this budget.
And we close with the tax impact on the average home. It's $138.28 for the average home of $338,561. Our preliminary budget, we were at $151.82, so it would be decreased it by $13.54. Or if you want to try to look at your own, it's $39 per 100,000 of assessed value. Or you can go on our website, and we have a school calculator. Tomorrow I'll update that figure, and then you can put your own assessment in, and you can see what that impact is to your own household.
Thank you.
Questions from the board? We'll start down this end with Ms. Merklinger.
I don't have any questions. I just want to say that I'm happy to see the updates to the transportation, especially with the buses and the cards. I think that's going to be a huge benefit for our students and for parents, just having that peace of mind of knowing where your child is. So I'm glad to hear it. Oops, thanks.
Okay. Mr. Robertson.
Okay. I am glad to see that our teachers are getting the support they need and our students the instruction they need with the enhancements. Well, K-5 English Language Arts essentially hasn't had the proper instructional materials to support the teachers for 5 years. So on one hand, I'm very happy that they're getting those materials. On another hand, I'm displeased that this budget is unfortunately helping to compensate for things that should have been done before. Teachers should not have had to scour the internet and Pinterest to put together instructional materials. They long deserved these. Mathematics 6 to 8, this is the end of a 4-year cycle. So last year we did approve piloting programs this year to then select a program for the following year. I'm very happy to see an improved program for 6 to 8 and looking forward to an improved program for K to 5, where we've been under-preparing our children in algebra. and under-preparing them for middle school, which had a ripple effect of that under-preparing them for high school. So much needed program, and our teachers, I know, have been working very hard, and a lot of parents. There are parents who are involved in, on the math committee that provided valuable input, including many parents who were teachers. Glad to see that coming to fruition. The health education K-5, I know that part of this is enhancing that is coming from state requirements, or not part of it, but it's the increase is coming from state requirements. But it's also going to hopefully be addressing a real need that we're seeing, and in light of the fact that this is also Mental Health Awareness Month, we're aware that not just in our district but across the country, mental health issues are now being seen at the elementary school level, and that's going to require helping our kids to better understand their own mental health, as well as providing the proper support for teachers and in PD, and adding the 2 teachers there as necessary. So we look to ESL, that also came from, the additional teachers came from meeting requirements that we were not delivering. So there are a couple of things that I understand were happening, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Mendez. We weren't delivering the number of minutes that we needed to per child, number one. Number two, we often had groupings of kids that were kids of different levels were grouped together in the same class, and sometimes even of different grades, as well as different language levels. And this will help to rectify some of that. Please speak to that.
Correct. That's exactly correct. So this is different and apart from a plan that was previously presented. This is saying that the state requires a specific number of minutes for ESL students to receive instruction in English. And in addition to that, they should be grouped by their proficiency level and at grade level so that they could receive the best quality of instruction. Due to the distribution of the students across our district and in the different schools, when we have small numbers in schools, therefore we might have to combine grade levels or combine proficiency levels to provide instruction. So by adding the 2 teachers, we should hope to address that.
Good. And it also is certainly a more tenable solution than no kids are being bused. We're meeting their needs within their school buildings and the school that's close to their home. So I'm very, very happy about that as well. Could you talk a little bit about the addition of the academic support teacher for 6th grade at Edison?
Sure. Currently, our district provides academic support, or better known as basic skills, in our elementary program, grades K through 5. So students who may be struggling or need additional support receive additional services, whether in the classroom or pulled out in the areas of ELA and math. We do not continue those services in grade 6. So students receive the additional support at the elementary level and then go to grade 6, and then they are mainstreamed into all of their classes without the support. So what we would like to do is begin to add the academic support this year in grade 6, and hopefully next year grade 7 and 8, so that we can provide a continuum of support K through 8.
Thank you. And I'm ecstatic about what we're doing in safety and security. I mean, this is also the culmination of a process that started with the public forum last year, and we're doing the most in-depth approach we've ever taken to it. Stonegate did an excellent job. Got a lot of input from teachers and administrators and from parents, and really feel comfortable about what this is going to do to protect our kids and protect our teachers. I should note that it doesn't include, at a point where, actually 60 Minutes just ran a special on this, where municipalities are being held through cybersecurity, issues with cybersecurity and for ransomware. And this does not address cybersecurity remediations. As I understand it, the Department of Homeland Security is providing our cybersecurity audit, so that saves us money. But whatever recommendations come out of that, the remediations for that are not budgeted here.
Correct. So cybersecurity is totally separate from our security audit, as you've mentioned. We have applied to Homeland Security to conduct and facilitate the cybersecurity audit, and they will do so at no cost to the district.
Okay. Also very excited about having diversity and inclusion, and actually it shouldn't be cultural proficiency, but cultural competency for K-12, professional development for teachers and administrators, board members. All of us can benefit from that, and parents. And, you know, understanding that we have a diverse community, but it's about having a diversity practice, a diversity mindset, those diversity insights that help, that really help our already wonderful teachers to do a better job of connecting with our kids and understanding what their needs are on a cultural level. And it's good, it'll help our community. We've never had it in an in-depth training of this type. We had a 1-hour talk that was given to new teachers only, and actually I believe it's a state mandate that we're supposed to have annual training, and we have not. So this will be beginning a much needed as well as mandated new process. And the social emotional learning and restorative justice, it's, you know, very small amount of funding, but it's going to help us to go a long way in addressing our kids' needs. And this is in conjunction with I believe the study regarding mindfulness and some approaches that was also being done that we had approved in a previous board meeting. So very happy to see that. Touched upon Math K-5, the algebra continuum. Yes, definitely needed that. And I want to say Next Gen Science, it's a very small investment this year. We made the big investment last year. But I've got to say that our supervisor, Ms. Soriano, and all the folks in our science department and engineering department, Mr. Del Guercio, et cetera, have done a phenomenal job of delivering against Next Gen Science. At the invention conventions and the classroom work, the depth and complexity of it, it's been really very, very impressive. So I'm glad we're continuing to invest for professional development in that area. Chromebooks, 2,100 Chromebooks. I was always a big proponent early on of the one-to-one initiative. One, because it helps to bridge our digital divide. About over 40% of our kids are in free and reduced lunch. Not all homes have the computers and everything that they need to have to be able to do their schoolwork well. This levels the playing field. Now, I think it's important that people understand, though, that we bought 2,410 Chromebooks in 2015. So this is essentially to help replace Chromebooks that are aging. The life of a Chromebook is about 4 to 5 years, and we have some significant repair issues right now that, well, not for this board meeting, but for another board meeting, we really need to discuss. I'm hearing reports of students, in some cases, as much as 30% of a class, not having workable Chromebooks, and that's not acceptable. Hopefully this will help to remedy that. Want to thank, see part of the initiatives in here. We also owe to our student representatives on the board. The geomapping and Z-passes were part of recommendations that they provided for our buses. They're absolutely brilliant. I appreciate them. Last comments. In looking at, while this budget has helped to compensate for some things that should have been done before, there's still things that we have failed to do. As I looked over the revenues that we get from grants, it's pretty much the same things from year to year, except for a couple of administrators who do write grants. We have a grant writer we have not used in 3.5 years. New Jersey school boards, we pay $7,000 a year to research unlimited grants, and as many as we want to, and their grant writer, the grant office, who's our grant writer, who charges $3,000 to $5,000 a grant, we haven't written one grant with them. They send us monthly opportunities in STEM, in arts, in all the areas where we have needs, monthly. We've passed up over 60 opportunities, not written one. And we could have been bringing in millions of dollars by now through that initiative. There are no grievances, there are no contract issues, there are no issues except the need to actually implement. And I looked at the form from the grant office, and it's very simple. It asks things like, how will your grant benefit the district or benefit children? Things that they can ask, that they can answer. And the materials it requires are the same things that are provided already to get budgets approved in curricula each year. So, this is an opportunity that, to give an example, one $3,000 grant for Jersey City. It cost them $3,000, brought in $83,000. The grant office closes, they win 50% of their grants, 50%. So by now, we could have written 45 or 50 grants. So even if 20 or 25 came through, that would have been significant revenue at a point where we're still increasing taxes. And this is just not a tenable situation. It's irresponsible, and it's something we cannot continue to do. And I'm hoping that my fellow board members who also partially campaigned on grants, Ms. Trigg-Scales and Ms. Merkliner, will help me in carrying the standard forward to get these monies. There are $300,000, by the way, coming up in potential grants, possibly as much as $600,000, to help us in areas of HVAC and water. Now, it won't cover the millions that we need to pay, but it could still address some of those costs. And the Sustainable New Jersey, and we're a member of that initiative, has asked us to apply. Microsoft partners, I went to a meeting, they asked us to apply for a grant. So let's make this happen. We deserve it, our kids deserve it, our taxpayers deserve it, our teachers and administrators deserve it, the district deserves it. That's all, thank you.
Ms. Mordecai.
Thank you. In the essence of time, I see there are many people here who want to speak, so I won't repeat everything just about that Mr. Robertson said, but I agree with most of that. But I wanted to start by saying thank you to our student liaisons, and because of their initiatives and their efforts, we are looking at the geomapping, geofencing capabilities for all our buses, the Z-passes, and the smart apps. So to all the people who said, why do we need student liaisons? They're brilliant. And so thank you to them for all their hard work, the surveys they did, and all the input they got from other students. Okay, a couple budget comments. On May 16th is Legislative Day down in Trenton, where your board members in PTA, and I see Ms. Tunnicliffe in the audience, she's been before, get the opportunity to go to Trenton and advocate for the school district to our state representatives for more funding. The School Funding Reform Act was passed in 2010, and it was never fully implemented or funding. So it's time that West Orange decides whether or not we're going to get a busload of West Orange residents down to Trenton and demand that our representatives work for us. I know our board president is going to speak more about that in detail, so I won't steal his thunder. And we have $2.7 million of unfunded mandates, so that would be great to get that. I agree with the diversity PD, the social emotional learning, and restorative justice. I believe we now have one of our teachers in the high school who's been doing that as a part of her dissertation, restorative justice, Dana Pert, so kudos to her. The summer initiatives, Mrs. Mendez, does that still include the summer step-up transition for 8th graders through 9th grade? Because I know a lot of people talk about, yay, 6th grade, but I would have always liked to have seen a central 8, because the lag time for the summer from the 8th grade to the 9th grade and that transition period is so tough for our 13, 14-year-olds going into freshman year. So I hope that summer initiative still includes the summer step-up that we used to have.
It does.
Good. I see Mr. Kramer in the audience. From time to time, he'll email me and ask me about the state education health benefit plan. So I see Mr. Calavano responded to you. I know in the past I'd responded to you. The last time I looked at the figures, it was $2.5 million more. And as you can see, it's still higher. In addition to what Mr. Calavano said, it has to be equal to or better than our existing plan, and that is as per our union contract. I'll just add that line in. I shudder when I hear the $12 million needed for the Univent replacements. I want to find out, is it possible to do those one building at a time? And can we just take a look at that, Mr. Calavano? I would love to see what those numbers look like if we wanted to do one building at a time, or if you already have those numbers at the ready to share with the public, and to explain how we came to this.
I'll look at by building, but the only way we're going to be able to do that is to increase our budget that we're in right now to cover the first building. And whatever we increase now will be a direct hit to the taxpayer.
Okay. All right. In addition to that, the figure for Washington, I know the last time we looked at the figures, it was actually higher because while the retaining wall is $500,000, I believe there was an architect fee that's not included here. I think the last time we looked at it, the architect's fee was $30,000, so that's a little bit higher than $500,000. So please make sure that we include that next go around. I'm happy again to see that we have the Amistad annual training. I know folks have been asking about whether or not we have the Amistad. We've been having Amistad training since 2010 or 11 when I just got on the board, and I found out that we didn't have any, and this was actually past 8 years before that. So I'm glad to see that we again have our annual Amistad training. Thank you for all your hard work on the budget. To the administration, Mr. Mendez, Mr. Calavano, and all the department heads that, we tortured. They spend many hours, 7 days a week, including Sundays, responding to all our questions and revising the PowerPoint that you see there, and giving us this thick budget to read. Every time they made revisions, we got a new document. So it's down from 4.31% to 3.9%, and it was tough. There's not a whole lot you can cut when you're talking about children's education, because if you don't invest in your students, what does that say about us as a community? Because they are our future, and you're supposed to make sure that they're prepared for their future and to be good contributing citizens, and that starts with a decent education. And every single child deserves that educational opportunity, and we're supposed to make sure that they get it. Thank you.
Ms. Driggs-Gels.
Thank you, and good evening to everyone. And I have to tell you, I feel really odd sitting up here on the stage. Much rather be down looking at you from a different level. I'd like to echo what Mrs. Mordecai just said about this being a tough process. It truly is, especially being a new board member and trying to absorb all of this and learning the district at a totally different level. And I certainly have to thank Mrs. Mendez and Mr. Calvano and staff, central office staff, as well as all of the building administrators for making this work. Our first charge as board members is to ensure that we are providing a quality education for each and every student. It comes at a cost. We want to be competitive. We want West Orange students to remain competitive. They're in this little bubble here in West Orange, and I've talked about this before. We compete with Essex County, the other school districts in our county. We compete at the state level. We compete on a national level. But our kids are going out beyond our borders, and we have to ensure that they have everything that they need to compete and to be competitive in the world marketplace. And so, as I said, it comes at a cost. And we're taxpayers too, so we understand the impact. A township is often measured by the quality of its educational system. We want to remain attractive to young families. We want people to come here because of the school system. And so, as we look at the efficiencies, as we look at those things that we're adding and cutting, it's been a challenge. And I think that we have all, our fellow board members here, have worked really, really hard to make this happen. We know everybody's not happy. We realize that. And we wish that we could win the lottery and that we could do everything that everyone wants us to do, and to continue to keep the tax flat, but it's just not possible. So I just wanted to mention a couple of things that haven't been mentioned. I think most of what I have written down here has been already talked about, but I did want to talk about the importance of the academic support teacher at Edison. I think that that's really a very important addition, that we are supporting our youngsters who, that's a crazy time for kids, and if you have them at that age, you know what I'm talking about. They've been in this little cocoon in elementary school for 6 years, and now all of a sudden they're going off, moving into a much larger pond. And students who have been very successful at the elementary level oftentimes find themselves struggling. So the fact that we're adding academic support there, I'm very happy to see that we are doing that. The other thing I wanted to just mention, and Mrs. Mordecai certainly mentioned it, is that the state is always mandating things that school districts have to do. And it's very easy for them to mandate, but no money comes with it. So you have to find within your operating budget a way to provide the services that the state tells us we must do. The state also requires that each school district every 3 years submits a comprehensive equity plan. And in that plan, it talks about such things as our ELL students, our special ed students, looking at equity for students, equity for teachers, staff, and it also talks about training for teachers. So I just want folks to really understand that when we talk about the diversity training, that this again is a mandate. It's not that it's just needed, it is required. And the other thing, I just had one question I wanted to ask Mr. Mendez. I see that we're only doing security for Washington in the afternoon. So the morning doesn't present as a problem?
We currently have for the morning covered. What we don't have is for the PM, so we'd like to add the PM to the budget.
Okay. And we currently don't have anyone at Hazel?
At Hazel, correct. So we need both AM and PM coverage.
Okay. Okay, I think, oh, one other question. The Morris Union jointure with professional development, what do they provide for us?
They provide different professional development opportunities. They select those at the end of the year, so now they're surveying the districts to see what the needs are. They'll develop a calendar, a schedule. They will invite the districts, and we participate. So we share that with our staff, with our administrators, and then they can go.
Would they ever do anything such as the social emotional learning or the restorative justice?
I'm imagining that they would definitely do the social emotional learning because that's on Commissioner Repillette's agenda, social emotional learning. So I would imagine that everybody is going to have a component of that. Restorative justice is also mandated new to start in September, so I would imagine so. And we could communicate and input on the survey so that we could ask for those types of professional learning opportunities.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Liaisons, did you have anything on the budget presentation?
So I'm going to start with regarding the Summer Institute, the adding classes. Just we want to know what classes will be added. I know there's math right now, and I believe English, but in addition to that, what else will be added? And then in terms of budget and funding challenges. So I want to start off with asking where in regards to Washington is the Washington Wall, and what purpose does it serve? So I don't really know how it looks because I haven't been down to Washington, but if it's not funded for in this year's budget, what will the effects be? And to follow that, we wanted to know why exactly the wall and water quality wasn't being funded for. So Washington already seems to have a lack of funding, and we've heard from our classmates that have been to Washington for elementary school that they haven't really had the same advantages that other schools have had. So we wanted to know if what the wall isn't being funded for, it's also unfair for those kids. in addition to the disadvantages that they already face. In terms of water, what does the lack of water funding mean going forward, and how long will students have to drink from water bottles, and will this be more effective than just adding quality water to the budget rather than paying for reinstallments of water bottles? And finally, do you have a plan for everything going forward? And sometimes it feels like student issues are just put off, and while we don't know the context of everything, we'd like a plan on what exactly will be done with these issues rather than just they won't be in the budget this year.
Just looking at the graph, the chart of operating budget, allowable adjustment, and bank cap, I'm not very savvy on all the different terms. So if Mr. Calavano can just explain the difference between the under cap and then the banked cap figures.
I have a hard time here.
Banked cap.
Yeah. The under cap is where we currently are today. Next year it becomes bank cap. So you can go up to the level, the maximum cap, whatever if you fall below it, that amount is considered under cap for the current year we're in now. Then next year that becomes bank cap. So that gets put in the bank, and then you can withdraw for the next 2 years to use that to your upcoming budgets.
Okay. And so none of these are actually available right now? It's for next year?
It is available right now if we wanted to use it.
Right now?
It was, we used it in a preliminary, but we made an additional $442,000 cut. That cut now becomes under cap.
Okay, so
that amount.
So that amount is available to the district?
That money's available, well, it's not money. It's the ability to increase our tax levy.
Oh, okay.
So that's available. The health care adjustment's available, and the bank cap of $1.5 million is available currently.
That's all.
All right, so the retaining wall, it actually is, when you pull into Washington, you're coming up on a slight incline, and then it's where the cars are parked. So it's holding up the actual parking lot. It's starting to lean, and what we've done is we did some repairs to have the water run a different way to get away from the wall. So we're hoping that it'll buy us some time, but that wall eventually will need to be replaced.
No, it doesn't affect the inside, it doesn't affect the students, it won't affect instruction, but it does need to be replaced. It's a capital project, so it is the facade or the outside of the building. With regard to Summer Institute, the Principal Moore, he will submit a proposal that will outline all of the courses that could potentially take place. So today, first step, if the board approves this budget and the Summer Institute is a part of that, then he can move forward with his team to say, these are the things, these are the courses specific that we would like to include.
I just want to briefly, because I could really go on for quite a while, just briefly touch on the state aid numbers and how they work and what they mean and why it's the case that, as some have asked, why do we still need to raise taxes at all if we're getting an extra $1.6 million in state aid over last year. So just to be clear about the numbers, our state aid this year is a total of about, the state aid numbers that come out in March, we have a total of about $13.9 million in that. As Mr. Calavano mentioned during the presentation, there's another $1.5 million roughly in additional aid that's earmarked for special education funding specifically and for non-public transportation reimbursements. So that $1.6 million increase, though, that brings us to $13.9 million in that amount, that gets eaten up entirely by the healthcare increase alone of $1.7 million over last year. So before we give anyone a contractually required raise, before we buy a single new textbook or Chromebook, before we even talk about instruction or security or anything else like that, it's all eaten up by the annual insurance increase before we even get started running the district. So while it seems like that increase is great, it's part of a very long path to get us to full funding. I could go on for a while about adequacy budgets and fair shares and everything else, but the short version is that for years, West Orange has received about 33 cents on the dollar of what it's entitled to under the state aid formula. Last year, for the first time in the summer, they decided that they were going to start under the S2 bill that the Senate President put forth, that they were going to start correcting that, and that slowly over 6 or 7 years they were going to increase aid to the districts that had been underfunded and decrease aid to the districts that had been overfunded for all these years, who didn't have the enrollment any longer to support their funding, but who politically were still getting it because adjustment aid was never getting cut. So it's a slow process. We'll get there. We'll eventually get the full $26 million a year we're supposed to be receiving. We can only hope that something happens that makes health insurance increases be less than that each year, because it would be fantastic to have a flat budget year to year. But in this world where even in a great healthcare year where it goes up 9.8%, it's terrible that we have to say, oh, it's only going up 9.8%. And that's great. That's the best we've seen in many years. So the world we live in, unfortunately, we can't see a flat budget. So that's all I've got on this. And I know folks in the audience have things they'd like to say, so at this time we'll open it up for comment on agenda items only. If it's on the agenda, you can come up to that microphone and you can give us your name and address.
There was a couple points that weren't addressed that we asked. We asked what's the plan moving forward with if we're not fixing, or if we're not I guess the $300,000 for quality water recommendations, are we still providing water to the schools, and what's going on there? And if, obviously, the wall has to be fixed, but is it going to be a priority for next year's budget, the budget after? Because, to my understanding, it's been an issue for 5 years. Is that accurate? Oh, okay. Sherry,
All right. So right now, I think we're not providing any more bottled water. I think I'll check on that, but I don't think we've been providing water.
We are. We're actually we installed filters on the water fountains. I think it's this week we're going to have it tested. If everything comes out okay, then we'll stop the bottled water and we'll open up the water fountains.
And the retaining wall, yes, it's been an issue. It's something that has to get into a budget, and unfortunately, each year it just seems like the history and the need has been to remove it. So we're definitely going to have to get it into the budget.
Thank you.
Okay. So with that, we'll open up for questions on agenda items. You can come up to that microphone, give us your name and address. You'll have 3 or anything that's on the agenda. If you need follow-up on anything you ask, the clipboard that we usually have at meetings is sitting on that edge right there. You can put down your name and an email for the superintendent to get back to you.
Adam Kramer, 20 Moran Road, and my agenda question relates to the budget. Your final total expenditures is listed as about 165 million and change. And my question, and I hope the business administrator can answer it, is my read of the budget is you're spending about 97 million on salary, and the state is covering the 6.2% FICA on the employee side of most of that. Few of the employees are over 138,000, which would be the cap. So isn't that understated in terms of total expenditures? And shouldn't the total expenditures with that be more like about 170 or 171 million if we were to correctly include what the state pays for in employee FICA? Thanks.
Thank you.
Press it. This? Ooh. Ah, that's too much. Okay. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Robin Iserlis, 22 Yale Terrace. First, let me thank everybody for working so hard on a budget. I'm sure it took everyone a very long time. I just had 3 quick comments, questions. Number one, I'm curious about the rationale for expanding, can you hear me okay? The K through 5 health education. Curious what would this curriculum look like, especially in K through 2? And how will this be added to the instructional time already set in K through 5? In other words, is anything being diminished or eliminated to make this expansion happen? Second question, late buses. If we're going down to 3 buses, will there be accommodations made for students who may have to wait for the next bus should their practice or game schedule not align? Where are the students allowed to wait? And third, Mr. Robertson, I'm not at all sure that we want to dilute our public education, or public schools rather, by partnering with corporations. Such partnerships, the grant that you were talking about, Microsoft, et cetera, comes, as you know, with strings attached. I certainly don't want the students of West Orange to attend public schools with the names of private corporations featured in our classrooms and hallways. They are already exposed to an enormous amount in our consumer culture, and we don't want our public schools to contribute to this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Gina Velasquez, 22 Corwell Circle. So my question is, I'm curious about the budget and the diversity training for the teachers and the staff. I haven't heard anything about, no, my question is, as far as the diversity, what's included in diversity as far as, I know the cultures, the different, I guess, I just want to hear, what do you consider diversity? Because my concern is the special ed community. I think that they should be included in the diversity training, and my concern is inclusion. I am not seeing enough inclusion. And also, as far as the special needs audit program, the one, you know, the issues that were addressed in the audit, I haven't heard anything about that in the upcoming budget. And as far as grants, who writes the grants? I hear a lot of talk about there's grants, but who do we go to? And who do you go to? It has to start somewhere. It can't just keep going around in circles with talk. So I just want to, I hope you can answer those questions. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Vincent Ector, 49 Ridgehurst Road. My question is, are the 2 FTEs that aren't returning, are they music teachers at the high school? And if so, would you be willing to revisit that decision in your next budget? Simply because I'm here to advocate for those jobs, and I'm here to advocate for the arts, which brought in $760 billion into this country last year. One of the reasons that I moved to this town, I'm a professional musician, and I'm a lecturer of music at Princeton University. I also run a nonprofit arts organization here in town. And what brought me here to West Orange was the school system and the strong arts program. My daughter graduated in 2015. In a few hours, I'm going to fly to USC Thornton School of Music and watch her graduate from that institution as a result of your music teachers. And thank you. I didn't know anything about this until I got an email about an hour ago from the West Orange music boosters, who are probably here. I can't find you because I was sitting too far away. But in any event, my daughter benefited from your program beginning here at Liberty with David Ramelis, then moved on to the high school. And because she was a pianist, there was really no place for her in the band. So she worked with Mr. Farley and would perform with his choir every year. She would play a classical piece and accompany the band. Last month, she was featured at the Coachella Music Festival, which is one of the largest festivals in the world, twice. And I'm going to have her do a public service announcement for you guys if you reconsider that decision to release those music teachers. That's all I have. Thank you, and thank you for your service. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if you need help with that grant, let us know. We manage the 21st century in many areas, so I think you could benefit from that at Hazel and as well as at Washington School. Thank you. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Vince, to you and your daughter. Nice to see you.
Nicole Rufo for Overlook Avenue. I'm here to thank the board members and Ms. Mendez for creating the Allergy Awareness Committee. I'm here as a mom of 3 children in our district who have life-threatening food allergies, and it really means a lot that you took the words of many families with food allergies to heart, and that you created this very urgent need to look into our district and to make sure that we have policy and protocol to protect our children. I also want to honor nurses today because the nurses, it's National Nurses Day, are often our most important person in the school regarding food allergies, and they are our best advocates. I also want to honor the teachers in this district who are the first line of defense in the classroom. They're reading labels every day. People are coming up, little kids, and saying, is this okay for me to eat in this nut-free classroom? And teachers are the first one to be able to protect a child. I also wanted to thank Ms. Gogarty for going through all of the information that I've sent and for handing it out to the different principals so that we can have this Food Allergy Awareness Week, May 12th through the 18th. And today I'm wearing teal, which is the color of allergy awareness. And then these shoes that I'm wearing, these red sneakers, are in honor of a boy who was 11 years old named Oakley, who died of a life-threatening food allergy last year. And I know that there will be a red sneakers for Oakley celebration at Kelly in honor of him. And this is why I'm here. I don't want to be wearing these shoes for my children ever, right? So I'm advocating now before that could ever happen. I'm speaking at the PTA event at Gregory on Wednesday night, talking about allergy awareness. And then I also just wanted to share with you this proclamation from the governor and the lieutenant governor that we received for Allergy Awareness Week. So they'll be celebrating it in Trenton on behalf of us. And there's also legislation that's going on in Trenton to try and have it a proclamation on a reoccurring year. And then I also just have a question regarding the Allergy Awareness Committee form, how it was shared with parents, because I never received it in an email. I know many of my friends didn't receive it, other allergy families. You guys did a top-notch job of sharing the superintendent search survey, so great job on that. But we just never saw it posted on Facebook or just shared anywhere. So I'm just wondering how the parents were supposed to find out about the committee. That's all. Again, thank you so much, and I'm really excited to see what we can do in this district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Hi, Stacy Marinelli. I teach at Hazel Avenue School. Also born and raised West Orange, never left. Good evening, board, Mr. Mendez and Mr. Calavano. I have a question tonight. I'm going to put my union hat on as WIA Vice President. I have a question for our members in regard to reading specialists. On A, personnel on the agenda, there is a reading specialist who is resigning, but it doesn't look like anyone is replacing. Does this mean the position will not be filled? With that said, on the attachment, the spreadsheet, it appears that there are only 5 reading specialists, which would indicate 1.6 reading specialist positions. This means that instead of each elementary school having its own reading specialist, people will presumably have to travel from school to school. How would this work to maintain the current program? And how would this not diminish the amount of literacy training that our students and teachers get from these reading specialists? As we all know, literacy is a priority for the district, so how do we justify diminishing the literacy programs at the elementary level? Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Tunnicliffe, 8 Hartshorn Terrace. I have 5 or 6 questions, so bear with me. My first question, I'm coming back to you again about this $3 million that was given back to the taxpayers. And I appreciate your information, Mr. Calvano, on how we can use the budget money. Would this money that we had have been able to be allocated to the capital reserve fund so that it could be used for some of these other projects that we have that were not in the budget for this year that could have been addressed? So if you could answer that, I'd appreciate it. Also, I'd like some more information on the Summer Institute, what it is, why it's necessary, who attends it, and how much it costs us in the budget. And I apologize if there was a slide with that. I don't have the printout in front of me. Third, Sandra, thank you so much for reminding me about May 16th. These state-funded mandates are a real problem for our school districts, and I just want to know what else besides May 16th does our board do to help mitigate or try to stem the tide of money flowing out of our district because of these mandates. There are so many of them, and they take away from what our teachers need to be teaching and the learning our students do. You know, some of them are very important, but I also think it needs to be married with what a tax base can handle on a regular basis. Fourth, I want to know if this smart app we're going to be able to have for the buses, is that going to be able to be used for other communication within the district? Like, can that be something that can blast out to students instead of robocalls and stuff? Are there other ways to use it? And sixth, I wanted to know, is the state healthcare benefit plan, is that the same one that all of the higher education institutes are on in New Jersey? No, it's different. Okay, thanks. Then that answers my question. And finally, regarding the diversity and cultural competency, I know there had been talk about forming a committee, and I'd be interested to see where we're at with that and if that's still under consideration. I think it is important, especially as we're having teachers, and I know I'm running out of time, but you'll hear from me at the next meeting about some of those issues. So thank you very much. Thanks for all your work on the budget. I know it's a difficult task. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Mungeli. Excuse me, I have bronchitis, but I felt it was important for me to come tonight. I'm the 25 Mount Vernon Avenue is where I live. I'm the co-president of the West Orange High School Music Booster Association. There are several of us here tonight. Everybody from Music Boosters, can you please stand up? Please stand up. I want us all to collectively thank the board, Ms. Mendez, Mr. Calvano, for your unwavering support for our music program at the high school. We recently just went into partnership, Music Boosters and the Board of Education, on a very large purchase, which is going to save the district money and transportation costs down the road. We just purchased a 50-foot trailer. It's been 6 long years of dedicated fundraising that we've been doing for the Music Boosters. Every October, in the beginning of October, we run a Music Booster a marching band invitational. It's a huge moneymaker for our organization, and everybody in the community seems to love the event. And I thank you for your support for that event as well. Secondly, in addition for us showing our appreciation for your support for us, we'd just like to make sure that the budgets that you are presenting for going forward in the future are going to continue to support the West Orange music programs, not only at the high school level, but also at the elementary school level and the middle school level. It is important, just like any athletic team, that you have to have a farm system. And with the music program, you need a farm system, and you need to make sure that we have the appropriate building blocks at the elementary school level as well as the middle school level. And those building blocks include the children, but it also includes the teachers as well. So we just want to make sure that you are going to continue to support the amount of teachers and the amount of time that you do teach in the music program so that we can continue the success at the high school level. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Elizabeth Redwine, 10 Cobain Terrace, and I just want to thank everyone I can't imagine how much work that was, and I teach English. I'm not a real math person, so I have the utmost respect for all of you. I just, honestly, thank you, thank you, thank you. So I just have a few questions, most of which have been said much more eloquently by Ms. Tunnicliffe and other people, but I'll just really quickly add my voice to the chorus. My first question is, I know there was $3 million about a year ago, I think. I have the article right here. There was, and Ms. Trigg-Scales and Ms. Merklinger weren't on the board yet, but the West Orange Board of Education is pleased to announce it will return $3 million of the $3.5 million allocated as additional state aid as immediate tax relief. So I have the same question Ms. Tunnicliffe has. I know we are in pretty desperate straits around HVAC and water safety, and I understand that it's much more than that $3 million, but I just don't know, and I would like to know factually if that $3 million could have been allocated there, and that if there is that kind of opportunity again, I'm hoping that we use that money to make our kids safe and not return it to the taxpayers, even though I understand that tax relief is also important. But I think in that case, it would be great if we could not return that. That's my opinion, and I just wanted to know if that would even have been possible for that $3 million to have been used for that. So that's just a factual answer I want. And then a second question is, I'm really excited to see the cultural competency, proficiency as part of the budget. I also wanted to follow up on the diversity committee, and I was a little bit late, so if I missed anything on that, my apologies. And I just wanted to raise the question if an understanding of LGBTQ and gender concerns was also going to be a part of any of the competency training, which I think is super important. And then thirdly, I just had a bunch of calls from friends of mine who are band parents who just wanted to meet, who couldn't make it tonight, and said, if you get up, you have to express our concern about funding music education in the band. I have younger kids who are really musically inclined, so I'm hoping that continues to be funded. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Hello, Sarah Kravitz, 276 Gregory Avenue. Just wanted to thank all of you for the incredible amount of work you're putting in, and I'm here specifically to support the music and the band program. I think everyone in this room knows how fantastic the music program is in this district, and some of you know my son is a musician. He's a senior, and he has really been given wings by the program all the way through. So in addition to advocating for what he has benefited from and what the other people have said in support of the farm team, which really is an amazing part of why there's so much success at the high school level, I want to advocate for the music program on behalf of kids who aren't so-called musicians, on behalf of really all the kids. As an academic coach at Rutgers and also a student in the Graduate School of Ed there, there's an extraordinary need for social emotional learning, and music education is a huge part of this for kids. Not just the ability to tap into emotions and express, and especially in this age of rising anxiety, depression, students need an outlet like this even more than they have ever before, but also socially as a way to gather together and create something in the moment, to be present together, to be off your phones, to be not thinking about other things, and for kids who are not necessarily athletic to have a team experience like that starting in their young years in elementary school. So I think music education has a really deep meaning for kids, no matter if they end up going to music school or what they do with it. And as a solace and an expression for them in their lives. And if they can get roots early on with that, then that will give them back through their lives. So thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you.
Want to start my time? Hi, my name is Susan Pasquale. I live at 22 Overlook Avenue. I'm here to finally applaud you all in regards to adding a basic skills teacher to 6th grade. I know I reached out to all of you in regards to my issues and my concerns. I'm a parent of 3 children in the school district, which 2 of my children each have had basic skills throughout elementary school. My oldest is in 8th grade now, and he has suffered dearly without the support for 6th, 7th, and 8th. Hopefully the next 2 years you will be able to get the basic skills in 7th and 8th grade, and I'm finally happy to say it's better late than never.
Thank you.
Jeremiah Salinas, 7 Crystal Ave. There's a couple of things that I'm pretty sure that everybody is a little upset with. With the additional state aid that we received this year, there seems to still be a lack of infrastructure upgrades. We have school buildings that have bathrooms, especially at the elementary school level, that haven't been upgraded in decades. I know my daughter goes to Redwood Elementary, and the bathrooms there haven't been upgraded since we moved here, and that's 10 years ago, and since, I don't know, maybe the 1990s or early 80s. Secondly, it's unfair to say that or point to all the money is going towards staff members, or most of the budget goes and gets spent on staff members and staff member benefits. That's not the staff members' fault. It's not the responsibility of the staff members either to decide what insurance plans they go into. Some of these things are just forced into, staff members are forced into that, and districts are actually forced into it. So to point out that most of the money goes into that is just unfair, and it's wrong. Last year, that when we had the same meeting, the focus of the reason why West Orange doesn't get the amount of money that we don't get is because it goes to other districts, and I think Jersey City was the district that was pointed out. So it just seems that we're looking to point the blame on something else every year that we come up with a budget. In addition to that, I think that it's negligent, it's irresponsible, and it's dangerous what we're doing with not actually taking care of the water issue that we have. That's something that needs to be taken care of immediately. Not because it's not in the budget, but because we've already had major issues with the water this year, last year, the year before that. We have major issues with the air quality. I know I requested to see how much money it was spent already on certain items that were fixed, but that doesn't seem to have resolved the issues. Same thing that the young lady said here, our student liaisons. It just seems that we don't have a serious plan for certain items that need to be addressed immediately. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Krista Senek, 15 Westminster Terrace. My son, Sheldon, is a sophomore here, and he's in the band, and he's in the music program. And he can't be here because he is studying for a test. But he asked that I read a statement. He said, "Music has heavily influenced my life. It's influenced my friend groups, my interests, and most importantly, my future. I want to go into music education. Teachers such as Mr. Kruer, Mr. Romano, Mr. Kelly, Mrs. Legatic, Mr. Zimmer, and so many more have influenced me in a positive way. They have taught me not only to appreciate music, but how to be a better person." And I just want to say that what he has done now is extraordinary just because of what he has been exposed to with the music program. He's in the drum corps for the 2nd year. He's with a bunch of people, all various ages, going around regionally. He's composing now, and he's written several compositions, wanting to write marching band shows. And this is all because of what they've done coming up from kindergarten all the way up to high school. You have these foundations that you build, and we have such a strong program, but the foundation is what lays it all out. And you don't want to eliminate that foundation because then we won't have the strength that we have right now. So just keep going forward and keep influencing the music program in a positive way. Thanks.
Thank you.
Marpessa Bell, 12 Meeker Street. I'm here to add my voice in support of continuing to support our music program. Like Ms. Sinek, who just spoke, I have a son in the West Orange bands, and we were just having a conversation. He's a big kid, and he said, "Mommy, they said I should play football," because he looks like a big football player. And he said, but that's so boring. He said, there's guys bigger and tougher than me, and I notice they just kind of stand there. But when I'm in band, everybody gets to participate, and you're always doing something all the time. So I'm here to add my voice because he's found his tribe, if you will, at West Orange High School with the music program. Some of our concerns when he transitioned from middle school to high school was, do we send him to West Orange High? It's such a big school. So it's important that you have that music community because it appeals to certain students, and they can actually find a smaller group within such a big school. Also, it's shaping his future. Some kids always know what they want to do. He didn't always know what he wanted to do. Now he wants to go for music education. He wants to go into composition. I'm a teacher, so I was excited. I said, you're going to be a teacher? He said, yeah. I said, well, you know, parents, I said, well, maybe you can major in something else. He likes history, so no, I'm going to be English as well. So it's shaping what he wants to go into as well. It's a very strong program. The other thing I'd like to say is, he's our second child. Our daughter is 10 years older than him. And what I've noticed is that the music program bonds a lot of people in the community. Not only do our children grow up, but you become familiar with them, you go to the different events. Those are people that you're always with as well. So again, I'm just here supporting, adding teachers, not eliminating teachers from your music program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Debbie Reese, Kelly Elementary. I'm a music teacher there. Thank you, everyone. Speak on behalf for the music department. Great job. I just want to add my concern. There's been a lot of discussion and not a lot of clarity with regard to the music program and the scheduling going forward, particularly at the elementary level. I applaud certainly the work of the boosters. They've done a fantastic job at the high school level. However, I also echo the concern of the gentleman who spoke earlier. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Without the benefit of the farm team, which comes at the elementary level, we eventually won't have what we're getting at the high school level. It's only a matter of time until the high school program and their reputation of excellence is diminished. Currently, I see students in K-5 right now for a total of 72 contacts per year. If one of the proposals that I've heard going around goes through, that contact time will be cut in half. So my question is, how are you going to make up for the loss of this contact time? And have you thought about its impact on the future of our program at the high school? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Laura Lapp, 35 Cunningham Drive. Just a couple of questions and a few points. In your slide, you indicated that related and extraordinary services based on changes in individual program needs, IEPs, are a reduction. What is that specific line item that you're counting in the budget? And again, IEPs are still being drafted, so I'm not quite sure how you're planning to put a finite number on things that have not been finished yet. This budget has gone up $21 million in the last 2 years, the operating budget. That's somewhat extraordinary. The rate for the salary increases is 2.7%, which is contractual, of course. The insurance, as you indicated, is about 10%. So based on a $25 million line item here for benefits, that's about $2.5 million. Question on the agenda, I didn't see it on the slide here, so I'm not quite sure where it is. I saw a slide for non-certificated staff longevity adjustments going back to 2001. Not quite sure what that's about. I'm pretty sure you don't even have access to those salary guides going back 18 years. It stymies me. I've been going to board meetings for 21 years. Never in my life have I ever seen that. Regarding the music program, for those of you who I served with, you know I was always a strong supporter of the music and the drama department. Many of our kids, that's the hook. That's how you got them in. A lot of kids are not sports people. Maybe they're not academics, but they come to school every day because they may get to play on that trumpet or sing in that song or be in that play. So as you look to cut those programs, remember those kids are affected by that. That's it. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Deborah Arman, and I live on 10 Phyllis Road. And I wanted to talk about the budgets for the track and field and the cross country, basically the running programs. My son runs, he's a sophomore, and this is his second year, and we have over 120 kids on our outdoor teams, boys and girls. And we only had 25 uniforms for the boys and 25 uniforms for the girls. So that leaves about 70 kids without uniforms. So when we asked, as parents trying to help fundraise for them, how much money do you have in the budget for uniforms? And there was no budget. They didn't know a number. We didn't know what number we were working with, how much money we needed to raise. So I wonder, is this standard practice not to reveal the budget to the coaches so they know how much money they have to work with stuff? I also wanted to talk about contracts. From my understanding, Coach Blake, who is the head coach on the cross-country team, and she is also an assistant coach on the outdoor and indoor track teams. But as a head coach on the cross-country team, she is paid less or equal to assistant coaches. And here she is a head coach. And I just want to say something about Coach Blake. I've worked with her for 2 years with my son. And as a runner and as a parent, I understand what high-quality coaching is. I've been a runner for over 40 years, run everything from a 5K to a New York City marathon. And so I know what it takes to have a good coach and to really elevate these kids. And I have seen her do tremendous things within a short amount of period of just like a year and how fast they have gone. And just this past week, I ran into an official who started talking about Coach Blake, and they go, "Do you know who she is?" And I said, "Well, yeah, she's the cross-country coach, and she teaches here." And he went on to say, he's like, "Oh, she goes to the Penn Relays," and coaches from colleges will go up to her, asking her, "Now, what kind of kids do you have going for you this year?" And the Penn Relays is one of the most esteemed relays on the East Coast that we have. And this says a lot about who she is and what she does. And I just want her to be recognized and have equal salary for that. And also, a lot of the programs are lumped together, the outdoor, indoor, and cross-country. These are separate programs. These should be allocated separately because there's so many teams on there. And I know I'm running out of time, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Takia Smith. My address is 31 Mead Street. I basically want to echo what Deborah was saying. I have 2 children in district and a third who graduated last year. He's in college now. I have a sophomore also who runs for the cross-country, indoor, and outdoor track team. And when I say they are phenomenal, they don't always get the same recognition as other sports I know, but they are phenomenal. The girls' team, as a matter of fact, just won Essex County Relay Championships this past Friday in Livingston. So kudos to them. I'm actually here to read a statement written by another track mom in support of Coach Blake. 2 weeks ago, I copied the board on an email I sent to Mr. Moore regarding our track team. Today, I would like to give you a deeper perspective. 2 years ago, I brought my son Sebastian to the high school for an event held for incoming freshmen. We approached the cross-country track table where we met Coach Blake. I began explaining to her that Sebastian has autism. She immediately replied, "Everyone is welcome." I will tell you, as someone with 20 years experience parenting 2 children with disabilities, despite my comfort in that moment, I still expected great challenges. We moved to West Orange because I was tired of watching welcome mats get ripped out from under Sebastian's feet. Sebastian has spent the majority of his education in self-contained classes. When he was very young, there wasn't time to focus on sports. We were busy trying to teach him to speak and keep him from wandering off. When your child doesn't have a natural talent or years of practice, there aren't many options to compete in sports when you reach high school. Coach Blake said, "Everyone is welcome." But she didn't know how Sebastian struggled during his Roosevelt cross-country meets, often walking or skipping in order to finish. When practice started in the summer of 2017, I could not have imagined the level of inclusion his high school running career would afford him. Everyone is welcome doesn't begin to explain what Coach Blake has modeled. She treats her athletes as one cohesive team, training the freshman, novice, JV, and varsity teams together, not as separate entities as we see in other sports. She's created an environment of high expectations on the field and in the classroom. Her emphasis on character, sportsmanship, and personal excellence produces successful, engaged teammates. When Sebastian had no one to sit with at lunch, his teammates ate with him. When Sebastian ran late after practice, they made sure he got to the bus on time. They stayed on the sidelines and cheered him on, and at the end of his sophomore cross-country season, he won the Most Improved Athlete Award, slashing 4 minutes off his time from the previous year. If that isn't impressive enough, all of Coach Blake's nutritional instruction paired perfectly with Sebastian's food for fitness class. After years of eating a self-restrictive 5-food, mostly carbohydrate diet, Sebastian expanded his palate and lost 25 pounds. Coach Blake is one of this district's gems, one we cannot afford to lose, but I fear she is neither given the respect nor the compensation she deserves. Coach Blake is still not recognized after years of service to this district as an indoor season head coach. Her value is far too great for such an oversight. Please take a closer look at the budget, especially all the underutilized assignments. Thank you for your time, service to our district, and consideration. Joanne DeSimone. Thank you.
John DeRosa, Manka Road. I'm a teacher at the high school. I'm also a resident. I turned on a water fountain today at the high school and it was working. Is the water safe? I need to know that. And I need to know it with absolute certainty because I am a cancer survivor. Last Friday, I had a 6-month checkup. This is very emotional, so bear with me. I wait every 6 months to make sure that my blood work is clear. And I got off easy. If that wasn't bad enough, my husband was just diagnosed with cancer. I don't want to hear ooh and ah and oh so bad. But this is a valid concern for my family, for many other people in that high school. This is a concern. Is the water safe? Over 50, under 50, it does not matter. As a teacher, I'm also looking at it for instructional time. How much time I'm wasting is being wasted with kids walking to get water. But then again, I have to play that selfish card. This is my health. This is the health of my colleagues, my friends, my administrators, and my kids. And if my kids know anything and remember anything about having me as their teacher, I threaten them. Once you have me as a teacher and you're my student, you're always my student. And that's a promise, as well as a threat. I'm retiring by January 4th, 2021. I write it every day on my sign, every week on the sign-in sheet. Is this going to be fixed by then? I need to know, and my colleagues at every school need to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Shane Donaher. I am a student at Roosevelt Middle School. And I think it's very important, because we were talking about the budget cuts, and especially in the music department, that we make sure that we have all the money going into the musical theater program. I was in the musical at Edison 2 years ago. I was at the show at Roosevelt last year, and I was in the show this year, The Addams Family. And I will tell you, there is nothing like the shows that you will see in West Orange. Like, Mamma Mia is absurd compared to what you see to a regular high school production. And The Addams Family, Once on West Island, and Beauty and the Beast are also absurd for what you see for a middle school production. And I think that we all need to make sure that the students at these schools can get the best experience in these programs that they possibly can. And that means that we need to get all the funding that we can into those programs, because we need to make sure that they can get those get that experience and that they can say, wow, this is something I absolutely love. And I've actually considered going into musical theater as a profession because of the experience that I have had in this district. And I think, I don't have much else to say, but I think it's very important that you all make sure, and I know you have a lot of stuff to do, but just make sure that you are putting as much effort into musical theater and any other music program that you have, that we can make it the best that we can for the students in it and all those who have to listen to the music or who go see the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nicole Edison, 47 Morris Road. I'm also a student at West Orange High School, and I'm part of the band program. And all tonight, I've been hearing about, transitioning, 6th grade going into the 7th and 8th. And I just wanted to continue to harp on that fact that the music program has provided that transition for me. Going from the 6th grade to the 7th grade or the 8th grade to the high school, every class is different, but music stays the same. And I feel like, students need that sense of consistency. And if you're going to reduce the amount of time spent on music in the elementary school, you need to consider the fact that, that affects a child's mental health. And, going from elementary school to the middle school, that's one more class that has to change. In addition to that, music has provided a family, going between schools, a countrywide family. I choose to go, when I go to college next year, I choose to continue music. I'm not a music major, but I wanted to go into the band because I know that that's a family that I can rely on. And I just wanted you to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Anyone further on agenda comment? Seeing none, we'll close that section. And Ms. Mendez.
I'm going to let Mr. Calavano begin with the budget question.
We'll start with Mr. Kramer, FICA, Social Security. So the way FICA works is you have the employee share and you have the employee share. Employer, employee. And there's two groups of people we have. We have certificated staff and non-certificated staff. So the certificated staff, the state pays on behalf of the employer share for the certificated staff. For the non-certificated staff, the Board of Ed pays the employer's share. We have $2,050,000 budgeted in this budget to cover the board share for Social Security. Also, for the certificated, it only covers the contractual salary. So if they do any additional work above and beyond their contractual salary, the board has to pick up the match and share. So that is budgeted in this budget. Okay, so certificated, that would be a teacher or an administrator. The non-certificated would be the custodians, the transportation, administrative assistants. So you have two different groups of staff members. So for Redwood School, we have partitions budgeted for $16,000 for Redwood, and we also have the removal of the trailers. So those are the two big items that are sitting in the Redwood budget for building repair. The water, I need to know which fountain was open because those fountains should be all closed. Staff cafeteria. Thank you. Yes.
Can you please explain the steps that we've taken with the water issues? The testing and the time period for the waiting and the filtration. I wish Mr. Siggy was here because I know we've talked about it in many meetings, but a lot of people here have not heard all the steps.
And I think at the next board meeting, I'll have Mr. Siggy come to give us an update. But we've gone through step after step. The biggest step now we're waiting for is a final water management plan. What do we need to do on an annual basis to make sure that our levels are low or non-detected. So we're working with 2 groups right now to develop that plan. But in the meantime, for the high school and for Edison, the filters are installed on the fountains, and we're just waiting for the testing to occur. Once we get those results, and it's a clear result, then we can open up those fountains. But I'll have Mr. Siggy come to our next board meeting to give us the in-depth process on where we were from the beginning to where we are today.
Mr. Calavano, those reports are still on the website if you go down, right?
They should be. We didn't take them down.
Yep.
Isn't it, it's all, when we look at the steps we're already taken, I think it's important that people know the first thing we did was to make sure that nothing was living in the boilers. We increased the temperature of the boilers to kill off bacteria. We did repeated 48-hour chlorine flushes to cleanse the system.
Right, we flushed the entire system in the schools.
We replaced all the shower heads. We replaced a number of faucets or sections of pipe where water can be trapped and then reflushed. And essentially where we are now is we're waiting for, as we retest and test and retest, we're waiting for this last batch of results to come in. Is that basically
Correct.
it? Okay. And isn't it also an understanding that even once that comes in and we can give the all clear, everything's perfectly safe, that it's not a one-shot deal. This is the water management plan is a water maintenance plan. And it means that this is an ongoing effort of replacing filters and doing all the things necessary to maintain clean water throughout.
Right, replacing filters, maybe flushing out the whole system,
Right.
chlorinating the whole system again, the whole process every year.
Continue the process.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
The longevity adjustments, that's actually going to be pulled from the agenda this evening, so the board will not be acting on those adjustments. We'll have to look into the uniform situation for 25 uniforms for the girls and boys track team. The coaching stipends are actually part of the negotiated agreement, so whatever's included in the agreement, that's the amount that we pay for the head coaches or the assistant coaches.
I had asked that question before about the coaching stipends and to make sure that we're abiding by Title IX for both our female and male coaches and that they're equitable. And the uniform situation I've heard before, and actually recently a few weeks ago, we received an email that the parents fundraised and bought over 90 uniforms. And I was mortified because we provide uniforms for other sports, and this is absolutely ridiculous. You know I'm a track and field fan. I was at Penn Relays. I didn't get to see our kids because I went on the final day, and they did very well, lots of medals. So really, really proud of all our boys and girls. Students, I should say, our student athletes. They're all little adults now. They're all grown up.
Add to that, I don't want to just jump to conclusions and make any assumptions. From what I understand, coaches are asked to put in their requests for equipment, things like uniforms, whistles, gear, whatever it needs to be, and sometimes they're not responsive, or the athletic director has to go on what he knows from previous history. So I think it definitely begs us to look into it, but I don't want to just jump to a conclusion that it wasn't provided or that it wasn't offered. It may have been that we didn't realize how many kids were going to be in the program, so I think we just should probably look into it a little bit further.
Okay, we can look into the details of the track and field budget. Uniforms should be included and picked up by the district, not by parents. The Penn relays are included in the budget for next year. As Mr. Calavano mentioned, the coaching salaries are a contractual item, and so then that has to be negotiated by the contract. And regarding the programs being lumped together, we can look into that as well, and that would be something that would be discussed with the athletic director along with the track and field coaches to decide what would best service that program.
May I make a request? I've been hearing, as we hear tonight and we've heard before, the one resounding theme is a lack of sufficient focus or attention to the track program. As a board member, I would like to see really a summary of what our budget is, what our staffing is, what kind of support we have. And there's several things that I've noticed. Well, first of all, you know, we have to realize that track not only is a prestige sport in and of itself and can give our kids college scholarship opportunities, and yes, we do have a phenomenal track coach in Coach Blake and our other track coaches. We're very fortunate. But track is also making all of our other athletes better. It makes our football players better. It makes our basketball players better. It makes our baseball players better, and it cross-pollinates with all these other sports. So we really should have a greater focus. The other area of focus that I don't see that we have, and this is something that we can address as a PR committee, Ms. Merkliner, is promotion. We need to promote it more on social media, promote it more at the websites, make sure that the coaches understand what avenues they have to utilize social media and digital, et cetera, to promote what happens, and potentially look at hosting more events. When we hosted that event, we became temporary for a moment the center of the track universe for Essex County and New Jersey in general. And that was a very special moment for West Orange. I forget how many schools it was like 20 or 30 schools, over 20 schools, right? About 30 schools. So that's something we should look at doing, look at the funding, look at the staffing, look at the promotion, and look at hosting. Thank you.
There was a question regarding the $3 million additional state aid that we received last year. That money could have been deposited into capital reserve. We had that option to let it lapse into, as of June 30th. June 30th, we could have passed a resolution to move the $3 million for capital reserve. The current adjustments that we have, the health care adjustment, the bank cap, and the undercap amount, that's available for use right now. So we have that opportunity, if we choose, to increase the tax levy by those amounts and then add to the budget.
All right, I'm going to jump around a little bit. Ms. Terry Cliff, Mr. Calavano began to answer some of your questions, so I'll answer the rest. With the Summer Institute, currently we provide credit recovery to our high school students. That's a part of the Summer Institute. This expansion that is included in this budget would include accelerated coursework. So that's for students that are not looking to recover credit, but instead are looking to advance through. And so then once that is designed, or once that is a publishable document, we can put that online. Again, that would require the board to approve it first. With regard to the SMART app, it will currently be used to push out information regarding transportation. So if a bus is running 10 minutes late or 15 minutes late, in that application itself, with one press of a button, the principal from wherever they are on their mobile device or on a computer can say, parents of bus 68, for example, the bus is 10 minutes late. And so then that would be a very quick way to communicate with a specific group, all those on a bus. Can it be used for other things like the robocalls? That's a good question. We could find out and see if there's a way to expand the use of that SMART app. So we will inquire. With regard to May 16th, I'll let Ms. Mordecai answer that when the board members comment. I think that was directed to her. With regard to the Diversity Committee, where are we? We will provide an update for the Diversity Committee at our next meeting because our agenda was lengthy, but we will definitely provide a clear update on the Diversity Committee at our next meeting. With regard to basic skills, Ms. Pasquale, thank you for your support regarding the academic support in 6th grade. We certainly hope to be able to expand it to 7th and 8th grade for reasons you've stated, and we're working together with our building principal and our staff in order to make that a very strong program for our students. So again, thank you for your support. With regard to facilities and a plan, Mr. Siggy has drafted at the board's request a 5-year plan. He will, since we're going to plan for him to come and present, we can ask him also to present that 5-year plan to outline the things that need to be done, Mr. Salinas, as far as our capital and our building maintenance. With regard to our water issue, I think Mr. Robertson discussed some of the things that we're addressing. Again, in the summer, we're going to have the consultants come in to really take a look at the long-term issues. We've put in place all of our short-term right now, remediation efforts. To Ms. Jackie at the high school, is the water safe at our water fountains? They should be turned off for the ones that we do not want staff drinking from, or students. The others all have filters on them. Those are safe, but we will continue to provide the water to anyone who does not feel that they want to drink from our fountains until all of the issues are resolved. Regarding to the buses, Ms. Searles, in the afternoon, we will have 3 buses. There will be a 3:45, I think a 5:45, and a 6:45. Our current late bus, I don't see where you are, is at 7 p.m. So we're bringing it up 15 minutes. So yes, we'll be able to meet the needs of the students. We've just spaced it out in a different way. We did meet with the athletic director and the high school principal regarding those times to make sure. It's the basketball team that normally gets out at just before 7. So that's the group that we would need to ensure that we could provide that service. And if we do need additional buses, we can send the buses. We're just cutting one of the routes. So instead of having one at 3:30, 4, 5, right, we're just reducing it by 1. The grants, I'll leave that to Mr. Robertson. Let me talk about health and music, because in this budget they are tied. First, I want to say that, of course, we value all of our programs, all of them. Everyone is important. Everyone is important for the diverse group of students that we service. They all have different interests. They have different needs. And we want to be able to offer a comprehensive and quality education across all of the disciplines, including music, including band, including orchestra, including health. Currently, at our elementary level, we have related arts that are offered to our students. Some of those related arts are art, library media, physical education, and music. Of those, 1 is a state requirement, physical education. We are required by law to provide 150 minutes of health and physical education per week. It's a state mandate. Districts are all struggling with this mandate. We currently, in grades K through 3, offer 60 minutes of PE of the 150 minutes that are required. We do not offer health. In grades 4-5, we offer 90 minutes of PE of the 150 required. We do not offer health. In addition to it being a state requirement, which we will be held accountable for, we do not offer our students at the elementary level an opportunity to teach them about health, nutrition, anxiety, depression, suicide awareness, mental health, and all of the things that we are truly dealing with in our district at a very, very significant level. We have to consider, how do we integrate into our elementary program the health component of health and PE? So this is not just the minutes, it's not just the health, it's both. We need to think about, how do we address the compliance part? Yes, but even with this plan, it's only a movement toward. We're unable with our budget, we're unable with our staffing to accomplish the full 150 minutes. So in this budget, what we see is that related arts at the elementary, art is offered 1 time a week, library media 1 time a week, PE 1 time a week, music 2 times a week, health 0 times a week. I'm going to repeat it. Art once, library media once, PE once, music twice. Is it PE twice? Music twice, and health none. So we have the 150 minutes that we're short on. What we're looking at is redistributing it and saying, in order to move toward the 150 minutes, in K3 where we have 60, if we can add 30 minutes of health or PE, we will have our 90 and we'll move toward our 150. In grades 4 and 5, we have 90. If we can have an addition of 1 health or PE, we can move again toward our requirement and integrate health into the schedule. Integrate health into the schedule. What would that look like? How could we accomplish that? 1, creative scheduling. And yes, we are looking at, instead of having music twice a week, having music 1 time a week, and having health 1 time a week, or PE, to move toward that requirement. What does that equate to? In K3, we currently have 2 music classes for 30 minutes each. We would go to 1 music class. We would add health, or health PE, depends on the building. In 4-5, we currently have 2 music classes at 30 minutes. We would have 1, but at 45 minutes. So we would lose 15 minutes of music at the 4-5 level, but we would add our health and PE, and we would lose 30 minutes at the K3 level, but we would add our health and PE. We are also looking at the grade 4 and 5. They not only have the music, which would be at the 45 minutes, they also have chorus, they also have instruments for both string and band, and we can potentially add the chorus for grade 4. So our hope with our scheduling is to continue the strength in grades 4 and 5, to, yes, reduce by 1 30-minute class at the K3, and integrate our health and PE so that we could meet the requirement and the needs of our students. It is difficult. The budget is not easy. We do not wish to reduce any of our programs. We are looking to meet the competing priorities that we have across all of the areas. In this instance, in this budget, it includes health. We are not cutting any current staff to accomplish this. We're finding that with staff that are no longer in the district, whether it's a retirement or a resignation or whatever reason there is, but we're not losing staff, and we're not cutting anyone at the middle school or the high school programs at all. Okay? So we do value our programs, very difficult in budget, whether it's our library media specialists, whether it's our music, whether it's our reading specialist, whether it's any teacher, any staff member, any clerical, any admin, any nurse, anyone on our staff, very difficult to make the decisions on our budget. With regard to reading specialists, we currently in the district have 6.6 reading specialists. There is a reduction in this budget of 1.6. So yes, that would mean making sure that all of our schools would be staffed by a reading specialist and sharing where that reduction takes place of the 1.6. Our reading specialists currently serve students, Tier 3 intervention, and some of their responsibilities also include being on INRS committees or school safety committees and other functions of that nature. We would decrease those committee areas and continue to provide all of the student areas. With regard to what is included in diversity training, that would include a whole host of areas, whether it's culture, ethnicity, gender, the LGBT, inclusion, all of the areas have to be considered under diversity. We're looking at 4 different components of the initial diversity committee, and that would be the comprehensive equity plan that is a state requirement that needs to be developed, along with affirmative action goals. We're looking at a subcommittee for hiring. We're looking at a subcommittee for professional development and training across the district. And we're looking at a fourth subcommittee of curricular and instructional materials to make sure that they represent all of our students and all of the differences across our district. Ms. Rufo, regarding allergy awareness, thank you for the information you continue to provide us. Ms. Gogarty and Ms. Butler are working toward that end. This will come up under a health and wellness committee, of which allergy will be the subcommittee. And currently it was posted on our website, and as soon as we really work out the umbrella committee, then we'll start to send out those letters and communique to parents for participation. Let me just make sure I'm not skipping any questions. I did that already. Regarding Ms. Lab, the related and extraordinary aid, that was 2 students who had one-on-one nurses through EPIC graduated. And also in our budget, we hired 1 occupational therapist instead of outsourcing it through CPNJ. So that's what that specifically refers to. To our student, Shane, and I'm sorry I didn't catch our other student's name. I don't know if she's still here, but just congratulations on your participation with the Addams family and the play and all of the things that you contribute to our schools. And I think that answers all of the questions that we received.
Mr. Robertson, did you want to respond to that one thing?
Yeah, 2 things, please. Ms. Isarlis, the last thing I'd want to do is to dilute our public education. I chose to put my kids in public education, even though I went to private schools growing up, because it does a better job of enriching who they are as a person and helps them to be well-rounded, and I believe in our schools. What I would like to see is the opportunity to double the funding. You should be aware that our governor and our education commissioner, Repillette, actually have a major initiative going, and the governor helped to force changes in state law to enhance the opportunities for public-private partnerships, not to create more strings, but to create more opportunities for funding, opportunities for student internships, opportunities for in-kind donations, all sorts of opportunities. Second, of the grants that we passed up or missed opportunities on, most of them were private nonprofit foundations. There are over 200 nonprofit foundations that I've personally become familiar with through UNCF and Inroads work I did that fund education in our region and in our state. And we're not seeking out those monies. 2, there are also low-hanging fruit opportunities that we missed right here in monies in Essex County. Monies that we could tap into for sports, monies we could tap into for STREAM or STEAM, monies that we could tap into for the arts. We're missing opportunities to enrich and grow the programs for our children. And I'm not going to harp on it more than that. I can make a list for you of the stuff that we missed. Ms. Velasquez, you're right. It seems to go around and where are you? It seems to go around and around and around. What needs to happen? 2 things. We've had a budget for grant writing for the past few years. We have it again this year. $50,000 a year. $7,000 goes to unlimited research by New Jersey school boards. $43,000 is set aside to actually write grants at $3,000 to $5,000 per grant. And school boards has a grant writer that we could use called Grants Office. They win 50% of the grants they write. We haven't used them. What needs to happen? Well, our administration, actually starting with our superintendent, has to make it a priority and then either ask administrators to submit programs to be written for grants or identify targets to be written for grants. All we have to do is give them a description of the academic or sports program or whatever, and give them the budget and how it benefits the kids. And the grant writer takes that with a little one-page form in the program and will work with us to select the right grant, make it user-friendly for us, and then actually will write the grant for us. We just have to make it a priority, a financial priority to move ahead. And yes, there's even money for music. For our music folks, Matt, Krista, Shane, Sarah, I hear all of you loud and clear. You know, music is the beat of our lives. It's the soundtrack to our lives. It's our pulse. It's the breath of our soul. When I was growing up, I wouldn't be the same person I am if I hadn't sung in a choir from age 6 to age 14. It helped me gain self-confidence, helped me be able to talk to people. Sometimes that's not always a benefit. But I'm a drama papa now, right? I was in this place 20 hours last week for Beauty and the Beast, and I got to watch my daughter grow even more, improve her voice, improve her poise, improve her dance, everything. And I got to watch all these kids work together as a team. It not only taught them, there was social skill, there was social bonds going on, it helps academics, it helps social, emotional, and it was teaching teamwork. We had about 50 kids helping to put together the set, help to work together and support each other with everything from makeup to actually delivering the production. So I can't speak enough about how valuable our music program is. Something I will ask you to advocate for that I wasn't going to bring up tonight, but right here in 7th and 8th grade and at Roosevelt, we have a different music challenge. If you're in 7th grade, you have to choose between music or art, and then you can still take STEM. In 8th grade, you have to choose between either music and art, or music, art, or STEM. You can't take an art and STEM at the same time. So you have science kids, as you know, and your kids are among these kids, who are great at both. And they should be able to be enriched in both. Why? Because the creativity combined with the scientific and the analysis, that's part of what makes America great. That's how we do innovation. So you want to advocate for something? Help me advocate to change that too. But I thank you for your advocacy, for the time you give, for the donations that you raise, and all of that. It's powerful, and it's it's enriching the lives of all of our kids and this community, because we gather as a community around our musicals, around our band productions, around our orchestras. And I want to thank you. That's it.
Thank you. I don't know if there's anything on agenda comment before we move on, before I answer on agenda. Just because there's such a long agenda, I didn't want to have to wait if you had something you needed
How long is it?
No, I just want to add my thanks to the students who came forward to advocate for the music program.
Yes.
And yes, I'll add to Mr. Robertson's comments, the whole board, I can speak for the whole board, we really adore our students, and we support the music and drama program, and we try to attend as many things as possible. I think almost all of us attended Mamma Mia. I didn't get to attend the band program yesterday, as Mr. Alper and I were away at a board leadership weekend retreat, but I know that our band was performing in Bridgewater Township yesterday. Couldn't get there. But we try our best to attend everything, 12 schools, all the programs. We truly do support our students, and these are very difficult decisions to make.
Well, I just like to say to teach is to touch a life forever. And so I just want to commend our fantabulous staff here in West Orange and our nurses, everyone, our paraprofessionals from last week. And we admire the job that you do in shaping our future. The other thing that I wanted to mention that probably just left my mind, and it did. It's gone. It'll come back, though. So I'll come back in a minute.
Ms. Merklinger, did you have anything on agenda before we move on?
I'll wait till board reports.
Thank you. Real quick, the only things I had. Ms. Tunnicliffe, on there you are. On legislative day, you'd asked what else we do. So the board is a member of New Jersey School Boards Association, and NJSBA lobbies on our behalf, but we also participate in their own legislative events, county school board association meetings where we get to do small group stuff with legislators. And of course, we personally reach out to them on our own as well, since we've gotten to know a few of them through those other events. Really unimportant in the grand scheme of things, but I think part of Senator Sweeney's path to progress is to eventually merge the higher ed health plan and the other state health plan. Don't know if it'll happen, but I thought I read about that recently. On the $3 million elephant in the room, yes, that was a really hard call. I don't know that we would do the same thing again, hindsight being 2020. I would say, and I think we've talked about this before, initially last year when the aid numbers came out in March, it was going to be $8.5 million, which was only a third of, what we were supposed to get. And then after the budget was completed and tax bills were, I think, struck at that point and ready to go, we suddenly found out we were getting a surprise extra $3.5 million. So we did return $3 million of that, under the theory that unlike a lot of other districts that had only budgeted to adequacy and not gone above and beyond, that our taxpayers had continually, pulled it out for us and given us everything we needed to do one-to-one Chromebooks and so on. So it was a tough call, and I don't know that we would do it again, especially, I think if we'd known what sort of capital issues we were going to have in the near future, at least speaking for myself, I think we might have decided differently. Couple other things I had, obviously on music, and I think as Mordecai said, I think we all agree on the importance of music education, and this isn't a town or a board that's looking to hurt the arts or music in any way at all, of course. I wish there were a way to have more time in the day for everything, to have more music, more art, more everything, but obviously we're limited, and that's a shame. Mr. Salinas, no one's blaming staff. I hope that's obvious to everyone in the room. It's just important to acknowledge that how little of school budgets are actually discretionary, that almost every penny in the budget is spoken for before we even sit down to talk about what we want to do with instruction or infrastructure during a given year, and that's the challenge. But, I certainly was not intending to put the blame on any portion of anything, and I apologize profusely if it came out that way. And I believe that is all I had.
Okay, I'll circle back around. So there was a question about what else we as a board can do as far as the unfunded mandates from the state. And so we do have a legislative committee, and Mr. Alper and myself are on the committee. And we've been trying to get in to see some of our representatives, but they're really busy right now. But that's certainly on our agenda to go in and talk about specifically what we need here in West Orange. And then I am attending the conference on May 16th, and I have learned how to stalk legislators, and so I will be doing that on the 16th with my list.
Okay. And with that, we will close out agenda comment and response. And at this time, may I have a motion for item A, personnel items 1 through 3, with the exception of 2B1J, that's attachment 11, on the longevity, which we need to review to verify against contract.
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Calavano, let's vote.
Oh, wait. Any comment?
Oh, of course, discussion.
I want to wish Mr. McLaughlin, music teacher who's journeying to another place, best of luck and safe journeys. I think he's moving to London.
I didn't hear where. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Calavano.
Mrs. Merklinger.
So, yes to everything except for item A1A, with the exception of the 2 folks that are moving out of state.
And it would be a no or an abstention.
for the other items?
It's a yes for everything except A1A is a no.
And on A1A, except for the two people
Except for the
moving
two
out of
people,
state.
yes.
For them, it's a yes. For everybody else, A1A, it's a no.
Yes.
Mr. Robertson?
Yes.
Mrs. Trigg-Scales?
Yes.
Vice President Mordecai?
No to everything on personnel A1A except for Kaylee Beal, John McLaughlin, and I abstain from attachment number 4, Joanne Dunphin, as I have a conflict.
President Alper?
Yes. May I have a motion for curriculum and instruction numbers 1 through 5?
I'll motion.
Second? May we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Just one thing. I always see this, and this actually bothers me. As we talk about budgets every year and transportation issues, when we have local field trips, can we make a stronger effort to use our buses? It always bothers me that we spend so much money to go from West Orange High School to Washington or Elementary, or just doing our local field trips across the district. If we use our existing buses with our staff that's on duty at the time, I mean, it's not a huge amount, but every little bit adds up.
That is our goal. We use our staff, and depending on how long the field trip is, if it interferes with the pickup at the end of the day, then we would have to go to Hunterdon County or to contract out. So our goal is to use us first.
I understand, but to go from West Orange High School to Mount Pleasant Elementary, for example, is $192. To go from the high school to Roseville is $96. West Orange High to Edison is $137. Every little bit adds up. I could see going out of town, but locally, we have to schedule them for other days when the staff is available. We have to really be aggressive about scheduling.
So also remember that most of our drivers are part-time. So they work in the morning, then they go home, or they go to a second job, then they come back in the afternoon. So we only have 3 full-time drivers. So if those drivers are booked for that day, then we have no choice. Okay.
So then we'll keep the full-time drivers busy, and we'll try to schedule more for the morning or afternoon for the part-time drivers. But we do have to make a stronger effort to do the local trips with our staff. That's it.
Any further discussion?
No, thank you.
I just want to thank the Italian American Committee on Education for the grant. That looks like we're accepting it, right? Yes, for that very generous grant for our Italian program. And I want to retroactively congratulate Victor Cardone from Gregory on his forthcoming retirement after 22 years from personnel.
Wonderful.
Wow.
So with that, we can vote on curriculum.
Mrs. Merklinger?
Yes.
Mr. Robertson?
Yes.
Mrs. Trigg-Scales?
Yes, with the exception of myself.
Vice President Mordecai?
Yes.
President Alper?
Yes. May I have a motion for finance, item A, special services 1 through 6?
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Calamano. Any discussion, rather? Sorry. All right, let's vote.
Mrs. Merklinger?
So this is just on finance A.
Right, just through special services.
Yes.
Mr. Robertson?
Yes.
Mrs. Trigg-Scales?
Yes.
Vice President Mordecai?
Yes.
President Alper?
Yes. Okay, may I have an item on business office just for the moment, B1 alone? Rather than lumping the budget in with everything else, we'll do that separately.
Right. Make a motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
So just to give a little bit, I guess, before I give my vote for it or against it, we're charged with looking out for our students, our taxpayers, and our staff. And with that, it's our academic achievement. And I fully support all of the programs, everything that goes into our curriculum, to ensure that our students have what they need, that our staff has what they need. But there's also a human side to this. And with some of the recommendations that are in here, we are affecting the livelihood of some of the folks in our district, and that to me is concerning and upsetting, and I cannot support that. I'm also very supportive of the music program. Just like in sports, everyone in this room, I think, and online or whatnot, knows that I am very dedicated to the youth sports programs in this town, and that those youth sports programs feed our high school and our, the achievements of our young athletes. At the same time, that's how the music program works. So you need that music program in the elementary schools, and I understand the change in time and the effect. It may only be 15 minutes or 30 minutes here or there. But for some students who aren't necessarily the book kids or the kids that are the athletes, music is their outlet. That's their creative ability, and I would not want to see that diminished in any way. And I do think, and it's been in discussions, I've heard that there is a possible way to have a win-win-win with health being incorporated into the curriculum with music without it being changed for our young students. And at the same time, considering things, mental health is especially important to me, hence the shirt I'm wearing today. So I would just like to keep, I appreciate everything that everyone's done. I understand the amount of time. Believe me, I appreciate everything that's been put into this by my peer board members, by Ebony, by John. It's not an easy thing to do, but there is some things in the budget that I do question if we can tighten up and button up a little bit and look into spending. So that in mind, I also have to keep in mind the taxpayers who have a lot invested in our community and have high expectations. But again, I have to look out for our staff, and to me, I have to look out for what we're doing and if we're setting them up for success. So with that, my vote is no.
Okay, we'll vote in a second.
We'll vote in a second. So.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Further discussion?
Very briefly, all budgets to some degree become a matter of compromise, and the goal is to compromise to come up with the best budget without feeling compromised. On the issue of music, if we can in fact add a chorus group to compensate, more than compensate for the 15 minutes we're losing, that would be wonderful. Knowing that band and orchestra in elementary, that's not going to be diminished at all. But we do need to make sure that we're fully supporting music. In terms of staffing, it's always difficult approving to let go anybody. And we have to trust both administration and each other as we have some very difficult discussions. And it's, there's no easy path. I do want to say that looking ahead at our budgets, as I'm not happy with everything with this one, but I feel that overall it will benefit our students. And also to remind on the $3 million we gave back, I didn't vote for that. I voted against it. As we look ahead, I do want us to think about one other thing. I looked at the building numbers for Washington, the building by building spending. And while Washington is a school of arguably our greatest need among the elementary schools in terms of the most ELL students, we have the greatest poverty. From a resource standpoint, it actually ranks 4th among spending per building. And I'd like us at some point, as we look at the strategic plan and as we look at our other objectives, to reconvene and to think about how to put together a task force or some focused effort to give Washington the additional support in tutors, reading, academics, across the board, STREAM, et cetera, that can help to bolster the success of the students and the school. And that's all. Thank you.
Anyone further?
I made all my comments before with the presentation of the budget. I know that people are here and they still want to speak. We have actually added workshops every single Wednesday for the last month to go over this budget line by line and fine tooth. I had questions up to today. But I have to say that we really all did work very hard on the budget. You just can't compete with the rising cost of health care and our contractual obligations. So, thank you for your work.
Just, again, the amount of time that we've put in and the amount of thought and arguing with each other over what we think the priorities are. But the priority remains the same. It's our students. And so I feel very confident that we have worked very hard to come up with this budget that will satisfy the needs for our students in the coming year.
Agreed.
Agreed completely. You know, we've had a lot of meetings. We've spent a lot of time together. A lot of people have done a lot of hard work on this. Ms. Flores included. You've not been mentioned yet.
Yes.
Thank you as well. You know, I think we've spent a lot of time together, and I think we're blessed that even when we don't necessarily agree on everything, that we're all, you know, very passionate about, you know, doing what's right for the kids of West Orange. And, you know, I think Sandra can probably tell a similar story when we were in our small group sessions and this weekend training we were at in Princeton. One of the things they really hammer into you at school boards is with everything that's on your agenda and every decision you're making, you should be asking yourself, is this right for our students? Is this good for our students? And, you know, this definitely is not perfect. No budget is, but, you know, on the whole, for me, this is definitely good for our students. So with that, Mr. Calavano.
Mrs. Merklinger.
No.
Mr. Robertson.
Yes.
Mrs. Trigg-Scales.
Yes.
Vice President Mordecai.
Yes.
President Alper.
Yes. Next, may we have a motion for business office remaining items 2 through 11?
I'll motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Calavano.
Mrs. Merklinger.
Yes.
Mr. Robertson.
Yes.
Mrs. Trigg-Scales.
Yes.
Vice President Mordecai.
Yes.
President Alper.
Yes. And may we have a motion for reports, item 1 through 3?
I'll make that motion.
No, second.
Mr. Calavano.
Mrs. Merklinger.
Yes.
Mr. Robertson.
Yes.
Mrs. Trigg-Scales.
Yes.
Vice President Mordecai.
Yes.
President Alper.
Yes. Okay. Next up, petitions and hearings of the citizens. You may come up and comment on any item, agenda or otherwise. You'll have 3 minutes on the clock. And just, again, give us your name and address. And if you need further feedback, please fill out that form over there on the ledge.
Adam Kramer, 20 Moran Road. While I respect this board, I want to give you this comment. John Marshall famously said, "The power to tax is the power to destroy." The unintended consequence of what you did was destructive. I value education. The community values education. But there's also value to having this a place that normal middle-class people can afford to live in. There's also value in having this as a community where people can stay here and age in place. There's also a foreclosure problem. You can't tax like this and divorce yourself from that foreclosure problem. It's impossible. You can't say you budgeted. You grew the budget 5.5% plus. That's not budgeting. That's not cutting. That's budgetary growth. That's fiscal irresponsibility. What you did was not right. Sorry. It's just not right. You have to have an honest conversation. Ms. Mordecai was correct. It was about contractual stuff. But what she missed was you are the guys that put that contract in place. You have to have an honest conversation with the union. And it's not to say that they're bad people. It's not to say they don't deserve to be paid fairly. But they have to be told there are limits. They can't have everything they want. You didn't do that. So now you boxed us into a place where after years and years of boards saying, well, we can't give you tax relief because we're not getting state aid in a fair way, the state jumped your aid dramatically. And you still whack the taxpayer over the head with another levy. It's irresponsible. There's two sides to this. You can't say you're spending $165 million plus, which when you divide by the 6,750 approximately students works to more than 24,400 a student. Way more than almost every other district in the state, every other district around here, and say that you're budgeting. I'm sorry, that's farcical. You've got to budget. You've got to look at both sides. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Caroline Cole, 230 Eagle Rock. I'm here with two issues regarding transportation. I have called the Transportation Department directly and spoken with people in the office about bus 364 every day at around, I'm going to say between 3:15 and 3:20. The bus comes down Eagle Rock towards Main Street and makes a left turn onto Calvin Terrace, where there's a giant sign that says no buses allowed or buses prohibited, something like this. The driver is dropping off students that live in the home on the corner that is across the street from me. And in the morning, that's not the pickup spot. In the morning, bus 364 comes up Eagle Rock from Main Street and stops directly in front of the house to pick up the children for school. And I believe they're going here. At that time, that's what they're older. So my concern is when I'm coming opposite this bus on my way home, I almost get hit by this bus every day. There's a reason the buses are prohibited, and that's because they're not big enough to fit down this very small street and then make another hard turn down Parkside to Valley Way. The rules, as had been explained to me as a parent in this district, is that as a resident on Eagle Rock Avenue, your bus picks the students up in front of a corner or the house, the street that you live on. They are not to cross Eagle Rock to drop off. Excuse me, so I'd like to look into bus 364. I've called 4 or 5 times, spoken to people. They constantly tell me they're going to look into it. This is an accident waiting to happen, and a very bad one. There's oncoming traffic at that time coming up Calvin, and I've, like I said, been in this scuffle several times. I want to thank you for the consideration of the geomapping, the Z-passes, and all the apps that you're going to implement for the future. But at the Board of Ed meeting after the snowstorm in November, I asked about what now we can do, and I want to know, have you made the emergency list for every bus, every route, every student with their contact list information? As a follow-up email, when I sent this to the Board of Ed, Terry and Cheryl, you weren't there yet, but I included you on there. I was told that this was going to be an easy fix that we could do, so I would like to know, has that been done?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeremiah Salinas, 7 Crystal Ave. I filled out my survey for the superintendent search online, and I was at one of the meetings that was held last week for it as well, too. Now, even though it wasn't attended by a lot of people, still got a very, very good information from the 2 gentlemen that are doing the search. 2 questions. One, how much are we paying the firm to do the search? And number 2, are they able to, like, do you seriously think that they're able to go through 1,800 surveys with information that was provided to them based on what the community needs are? I respect their educational careers. I respect the experience that they have in education and everything that they have done. But I don't know if two people are capable of going through all of this information in such a short amount of time, do it adequately, and actually find candidates that they're supposed to suggest to the board for interviews. Interviews are next week as well, correct? So I don't know if they've already given you all this information, how diligent they were in making sure that they find all the details that you provided them with and the details that the community provided them with.
Thank you.
Jason Lamont Jackson, 34 Sunnyside Road. I actually believe everything happens for a reason. I was getting ready to get up. Mr. Salinas didn't see me behind him and came up and spoke. And my question was also about the search firm. I've been in coaching and teaching for over 21 years. Spent 12 years in South Orange Maplewood School District and then moved to the university level and been back here for 2 years. And I've always found myself coming to board meetings. And for me, a quality of life issue is teaching and coaching and raising my family in the same place. So when I was at South Orange Maplewood, that's where we lived. And then came back here in 2017 and I'm here. Have one student at the high school and 2 at Kelly. One will be going to Edison next year. So coaching and teaching, we know, are synonymous, and I'm constantly preaching in my classroom as well as when I'm coaching that consistency is the key to success. Although this is only my second year here, right? Last year we had one superintendent, now we have an interim superintendent, and, you know, I'm not even sure if you know, Mr. Mendez wants the job, but we just approved the budget, so that's changed coming in and different individuals, and to now have a search firm, I'm not going to be here for the next board meeting. I was going to talk about it there, but to now have a search firm to kind of look for somebody in this amount of time to go through all of the surveys to try to find what we need, when in my estimation you have someone that's been here that kind of knows what's going on, maybe in a different capacity. You know, again, I don't know if the interim superintendent is also in the running for that, but when we stay consistent, it helps everybody, right? I know the board changes, it goes up and down, but to start looking for someone now when we just have a new budget, we're just getting to something new and have to deal with this. If somebody else comes in now and although things have been passed, does not want some of the things that have been passed, then it's, do we sit and wait for another 2 years to go through it again? So for me, I think we really need to remain consistent. I don't know what we are paying the firm. I'm speaking here as a parent, not as a teacher or a coach, but as a parent, because it's very important to me that, you know, over the next 3 years before my one son graduates and the others are kind of moving along, that we have some consistency. That is the key to success. So not really a question posing, but just wondering if, in fact, this search firm can come in and do what we needed to do when the board is here and can really do what we needed to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jean Torito. I've been a teacher at Gregory School for the past 24 years, 15 years in kindergarten and the last 9 years in second grade. I've been an active union member and has served as a head rep in my building for probably about 18 years. And so I was involved with a lot of personnel issues and problem solving in our building. I was also on the interviewing committee when Mrs. Estupinian was hired as assistant principal, and I believe that the committee did a good job in recommending her to be hired for that position. I was very happy when she was appointed as principal when Mrs. Thompson retired, and it provided some continuity during times of great change in our district. So I'm very happy that she's been reappointed as our principal for next year. I have to say this has been a very difficult week due to staff changes, some because of budget cuts, others because of class sections changing, which then creates a domino effect when it comes to teaching assignments. These difficult decisions will continue this week when we're all told about our assignments for next year. So I just wanted to say that when I finish out my career, I don't know if it will be as a second grade teacher or in another position, but I do guarantee that I will continue to come to work and do my job to the best of my ability, as I have always tried to do in my teaching career. I'm also confident that Mrs. Estupinian will do the same and continue to work to do her job to the best of her ability, and I'm hopeful that the superintendent and the board will continue to support her and the hard decisions that she has to make every day in our building in order to continue to make it be the best that it can be. So thank you for her reappointment.
Thank you. Anyone further? Okay, seeing none, we'll close that portion. Ms. Mendez, if there's anything else.
Ms. Holt, regarding bus 364, we will, where's Ms. Holt? We will definitely look into that. I will ask Liz Veneziano, could you raise your hand? If you could just give her your contact information for me, that would be helpful, and that way I could reach out to you tomorrow with a response. I think that was the only question for me.
Mr. Kramer, I do hear you. You know, we all live in West Orange. We all love West Orange. We all pay taxes in West Orange. So we're not unsympathetic. It's difficult. You know, I would point out, you know, just in terms of, you know, limits and unions not being able to have anything they want, you know, I would respectfully point out, and of course I wasn't on the board during that last negotiation, yet still, that was over 2 years between contracts, so nobody was getting exactly what they wanted during that process. It was a long negotiation that, you know, in the end, people compromised, and, you know, I know where you're coming from now. Mr. Salinas, $9,000 is the cost of the search firm. Yes, they have the ability to go through those surveys. It's really, you know, you're getting the quantitative data aggregated, you know, the percentages answering each, and then it's a relatively much smaller than 1,800 number of physical comments to, you know, physically go through. And obviously we'll be working with those results as well as we develop you know, the interview questions and so on. Mr. Jackson, agree completely about the concept of consistency. I agree really strongly with you. You know, stability is good for everyone. And yet at the same time, you know, choosing a chief school administrator is the most important, or one of the most important things a school board can do. So it would really be shirking our responsibility to not conduct a full search and see what the world has out there to offer. Ms. Torito, thank you very much, as always. Good to hear from you. And look forward to another year of you teaching. And I think that's it for public comment. Next up, report from board members. Ms. Marklinger, you're up first tonight.
Sure. So, as many of you know, May is Mental Health Month. And so one of the things that I would like to see us as a board do is to reestablish the Health and Wellness Committee. I know we have the Allergy Awareness Committee, and I think that's something that could fall under the Health and Wellness Committee, along with things like nutrition, mental health. There's obviously a big need for it. A friend of mine passed away 2 years ago to suicide, and we hold an annual softball tournament for him. And we partner with the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and they're doing a campaign called #WhyCare. And you know, 1 in 5 people are affected by mental illness in their lifetime. Half of all lifetime mental health conditions begin at the age of 14. So again, an even greater need to bring health into or further our health program, our health curriculum, and have things like health and wellness available to our students. Instagram is actually partnering with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and they're doing #RealConvo. And they're asking for folks to help, share their stories, provide support to others, and talk about, and along with the National Alliance on Mental Illness, to get rid of the stigma that surrounds mental illness, and not being afraid to talk about suicide and suicide prevention. I also want to recognize that it is Teacher Appreciation Week, so on, something a little bit more uplifting. I just want to thank all of our teachers and staff. Some of the teachers that meant a lot to me in West Orange were Miss Heitman. I had her for 1st grade and 3rd grade at Gregory School, and then again in 6th grade at Roosevelt. Mr. Galanti, he was my science teacher at Roosevelt. And then, of course, most dearest to my heart, my husband is a 7th and 8th grade math teacher and an 8th grade advisor, so naturally I appreciate the work that he does. I also want to recognize some of our students, our student athletes. Let me take a step back. I'm excited to see that we hired Jerome Hayes. He's one of our former assistant football coaches from last year, and he's now going to be one of our phys ed teachers, and he is dynamic and energetic, and the kids really identify with him, so I'm glad to see that we hired him into our school system. He's a great addition. Ron Bly is our athletic director. He's being recognized as Athletic Director of the Year in Essex County. So congratulations to Mr. Bly on his achievement. I guess we already spoke a little bit about this, but our track team, we had some folks who participated in the pen relays. I can tell you from my own personal experience, having run track in high school and participating in them myself, that is a huge accomplishment for our track stars. There's some awesome pictures from the meet that I think we posted on Instagram, so check those out. Our lacrosse teams, our baseball team, volleyball, golf, they're doing amazing things. And as well as we had some musicals. I unfortunately couldn't get to them because my son had baseball games, but the high school did Mamma Mia. We had Beauty and the Beast here at Liberty, the Addams Family at Roosevelt, and I believe Edison is doing the Lion King this weekend. So hopefully, everyone can get out to that. And I just want to remind everyone to check out our Instagram page and our Facebook pages for the West Orange Public Schools, because a lot of the great things our students are doing, the colleges that they're getting into are amazing, and they're doing some really great things here in town, and we have a lot of programs that we offer, so definitely check out our social medias.
Are you going to the Girls on the Run breakfast?
Yes.
I forgot the details.
Yes. Sorry about that. So Thursday morning, Girls on the Run is doing a breakfast, and so I will be there to support them. And some of the speakers are from West Orange. So it'll be a fun event.
All right. Mr. Robertson.
Thank you. First, I just want to kind of echo and build on something that Ms. Merklener mentioned. First of all, I am glad that we got an allergy committee started. This is something that affected me deeply as a child. I do think, though, and we used to have a health and wellness committee, and I think we have the opportunity for multiple subcommittees. With Mental Health Awareness Month and the fact that mental health issues are now, we now need to address them in elementary school, this is something we need to delve into more deeply as a district. I don't even know if we had anything planned for this month. 2, we need to look at aspects of health, including child protection. How can kids do a better job of protecting themselves against predators? You would be shocked at the number of convicted predators who live in the area. And then, so this is something, these are skills we can teach our children about, what is grooming and, what signs and signals to look for and how to protect yourself, who to go to for help, etc. And there are other aspects too, but we need to really look at reforming a full health and wellness committee and have subcommittees for each of these important areas. College decision day, and of course my son was enjoying that along with his classmates, but yeah, we have kids getting into fantastic schools, a lot of great schools, and our college attendance rate is the highest in our history. It's gone up every year by 1% to 2% for the past decade. and we're doing very well with that now. And we have kids going to multiple Ivies from Princeton, Cornell, you name it, as well as top Southern schools like Duke. And very, very proud of our kids, very proud of them. And last, for those who, if you didn't have a chance to see Beauty and the Beast at Liberty, I have to say, and I missed seeing the Addams Family, but from all that I heard, and of course, Lauren was there for everything. She's missed lights, sound, and all that, and licenses. I'm aware of those now. But we had two of the best middle school productions, I think, literally in the history of our district. They were very complex. The choreography was complex. The harmonies and voice, very complex and just really profound. The acting was excellent. The stage crew was phenomenal. The changes that they made and how they worked together seamlessly as a team, and just how all the children supported each other and celebrated each other. It was a beautiful thing to watch. It was my first time like all in as a drama papa, so I was having a ball, and just very, very proud of our kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll talk about that on the wall. The what? On Friday. Okay, got it.
I have to add on to what Mr. Robertson said. That includes our two student liaisons. One is on her way to Princeton when she graduates this June, and the other will be going to Rutgers. So we're very proud of our student liaisons as well. I know the high school, yes, Honors College. I know the high school had an amazing college signing day last week. I wasn't able to attend, but I saw the pictures, as I'm sure most of you did as well. And we're very proud of all of our students, and I'm sure we'll get the list at some point from the administration as to where everybody's going, and looking forward to graduation. First, I want to say Happy Teachers Week and Happy Nurses Week to all our nurses and teachers. And last but not least, I want to say congratulations to President Ken Alper, who this week will be receiving his certification for all his hard work, making sure he is a knowledgeable board member, and that when he makes decisions, it comes from a place of true learning. This weekend we had the leadership weekend, but he will be receiving the certification from me in one of my last duties as president of the Essex County School Board Association. So I'm very proud that you're getting certified on Thursday, and thank you.
Thank you.
Truly certifiable, but
that's how you get up here.
yes, not everybody knows that the Board of Education members are the only elected body in New Jersey who has mandated classes that we have to take. Governance 1, 2, 3, 4, and any other class you take as a bonus, as education is constantly changing. You have to attend these courses to make sure you're bringing best practices back to your district, you're networking with other districts to find out what they do and if we can replicate it here, especially in districts that look like ours. I know this weekend we learned all about Microsoft tools and the immersive reader for dyslexic children. So hope we can talk more about that at an upcoming meeting as we present what we learned this weekend.
Definitely.
Thank you.
And on that same note, I am attending, as I said, the legislative conference next week, as well as the symposium on special ed. So I'm making 2 trips to Trenton next week. And on that same vein, I had the pleasure of attending the Pass, Paint, and Sip scholarship last Sunday, held at the JCC, and it was very well attended, and we sipped, and we had budding artists, and we sipped, and we had accomplished artists, and the moms of the 2 scholarship recipients were there and very appreciative. And on Friday, Mr. Alper and Mr. Robertson and myself attended the high school for the Nikhil Badlani Foundation Youth Advisory Board's unveiling of their traffic safety mural. And this was a labor of love, watching the students who have worked so hard, in addition to the artists who designed it, and then the students who actually were a part of the mural. So we had other dignitaries there. We had Assemblyman McKeon and the mayor, and we had council members there as well. And part of it, and if you get a chance to see it, it's a number of stop signs as part of the mural. And what they want to do is, as students complete their driver's ed, that they take the pledge. And so we all took the pledge, and then you actually put your fingerprints. So we were the gold finger, I called us. We all got a chance to take the pledge and then put our fingerprints on the wall. So this is a living mural, and it was very touching. And so if you do get a chance to see it, please do. And I think that's it for me. Thank you.
And I think everyone covered everything I had too. Again, happy Teacher Appreciation Week, Teacher Day in 45 minutes, and Nurses Day about to end. Next board meeting will be held back at the high school, 8 p.m. on May 20th. And may I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
All in favor?
Second. Yes. Aye.
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 Everyone get home safe.